Well, I know when it's
mass.
it's impossible. But their standard, I mean, is there any time during the night, is there? Yeah, here, you want to do
I
that?
have no idea.
You want to do that for me?
But how come your
Mine, I
administrator's
mixed them
not
all
first
up.
then?
I know mine are a mess too.
I spent a long morning yesterday, half a day.
I don't have them in this order.
Not as long as you do.
Good for you.
And the day before.
Tell me how that
Got a huge ciphering. Good for you.
Oh,
Good for you.
pretty ruthless if they did this. What are you gonna do?
Why did you put these in first week?
Yeah, we got something like that already. We have these.
Melanie, are these changed? Is that in front of them?
No way. You can't do that. I was
Now,
looking
why,
at these
why
other
did
ones all day
you
yesterday.
put them in order?
Melanie,
Don't keep the department.
you want to help with this ice these for me?
If you would have put these in order, then I could.
5 employees versus
Oh well. Who's missing? Oh yeah.
The rifles your papers.
Yeah. Yeah, but I highlighted stuff.
I'm sure.
No of them anyway.
That is very strange. Is he at your meeting this afternoon?
Here's some highlighted, I guess.
You knew it was at 6:30?
Thought he did. It was on the
Guess I gotta get in earlier.
There's a lot of dark.
Some of your power moved back. I don't know why we can't. Yeah. Take it out, put it in storage. Russell. Russell. John Building and Grounds. We want that extra 2 chairs out of there. Can't get through us full-figured guys. There ain't room for everybody. Well, in other words, we gotta put up with that.
That's fighting words, you guys.
Wait till next time. Somebody else can run for building and grounds, buddy.
Besides, we had this desk before.
Wait till they ask.
It's better. It is better.
What's Haig's number?
Way better.
No, see what you can do about that. We don't need it. It's just kind of in the way.
Where's Everett?
I don't know how it's fastened down. They can move it back. They can still use it. There's room back there. Put over in that corner.
What is that?
Get her over here because the camera will get her here.
Want me to go try?
He's over here.
Here, I don't have. I don't know if I have his. Dennis might have his cell phone on. Your cell phone.
Do.
Yeah, she's got a phone.
Looking for Everett?
I just thought of something I was supposed to do. I need to know the town clerk of Marion.
Town clerk of Marion.
There goes.
I got Carol's cell phone on.
I find out he wants to get an absentee ballot. I don't know why you don't know who the clerk is.
I'm unable to take your call, she says.
Might be in there.
See what the number is.
Should have it turned on.
Well, I guess we can get started.
Kill the fly.
Let's call the meeting to order. Mel, do roll call?
Mrs. Krantz. Here. Mr. Heisey. Here. Mr. Tim.
Here.
Mr. Piasky.
Here.
Mr. Eckstein is on his way probably. Mr. White.
Here.
Oh, yeah. Mrs. Claus.
Here.
Mr. King. Here. Mr. Waddle.
Here.
Mr. Rothermont.
Here.
Mark Kirschner.
Yep.
All accessible.
Okay, let's stand for silent prayer and pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I prayed for no fist fights. Yes. I want to thank you all for coming, department heads and county board. At this point in time, with our budget being what it is, I thought it would be a nice time to get the whole county board involved in this. Usually we do budget hearings with just the executive committee, and I thought maybe we could all take ownership of this budget. Tonight is the night. If you have any questions whatsoever, that's why the department heads came. And so I would appreciate you get it all out there now, and we'll deal with it, right? Mel, do you have?
The first week.
Oh, all right. We need a motion to approve the agenda.
Move.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Public comments? No one signed up? All right, we have a report for the 2015 budget outlook and challenges, and Mel is going to deal with that.
Well, I think you all received in your packets a spreadsheet that I put together, just attempting to kind of lay it all out in one spot, what we've got this year. Try to shrink it down here a little bit. And I just kind of ranked all the departments. We looked at 2014 and 2015 and saw what the levy differences were. And then I ranked them in order of who's up the most money-wise, who's up the most percentage-wise, and then just kind of looking at those two rankings and just put them in order. And then since it's just kind of so overwhelming to look at all those pages, I kind of analyzed what I thought in looking at the budgets were why they were the way they were, where the increased expenses were, where the decreases were, that kind of thing. So that just was for your benefit, for a starting point, just to get an overall look at it. At the end, obviously, you can see that our request this year is up 500 and well, it says 500. It's now up 502,500. There was an adjustment to the non-departmental budget that brought it back down by 25,000. So that's how much we're up above last year's tax levy request. So this is our tax levy request this year, $16,175,041. And of course, EMS doesn't count toward our levy, so taking that off. Winnifox is the same scenario; they don't count toward our levy limit, and so that would bring it down to this amount here, and the $14,076,000 is what we are allowed. So that means we're 614. Sure. $614,699 over the levy limit. So that's what we're here to talk about, I guess.
do you have anything to add? No? Deb?
Well, a couple things. I think in the past we've talked about different options of the options that the board members have. They mounted some calculations. If we were to apply the entire debt that we're paying off from the 10-year bond, that is 800-some thousand. So if you'd scroll down again now, that would help me. So you have the opportunity to add one more line in the minus column, and that would be the debt. So you do have that opportunity. That means you would have to raise the mill rate to cover that entire amount. So I guess that is one opportunity that you do have, that you could play the game and put in the minus for the debt, and that zeroes out that difference. But then the entire amount would be on the mill rate.
And we did do that last year to a certain, not to this extent, but it was about 245,000, 246,000 of the debt that we applied to offset the amount we were over.
Do you want to scroll back up to the top? So I just want to point out a few things. So if you just start at the top, Human Services, and Dawn and I and Brenda have had some discussions about this. Last year, the Human Services Department was given the instruction that they had to apply enough of their designated fund to bring them at no increase in their levy. We did not give them that instruction this year. We did not give any of the departments that instruction this year. So you're really seeing what the true expenses are going up. I thought it was important that you really saw the true expenses, because designated funds go up, they go down, sometimes they disappear. I think if you look from the 2012 to the 2013 numbers in our management letter, a lot of those designated funds are reducing, and it's because we are applying them to help offset levy. So at some point, we're making decisions, but at some point, are we just kicking the can down the road, and then now we're providing services that, at some time you're going to have to make even tougher decisions, and I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what to tell you. I know that Human Services, Brenda and I and Dawn were talking about this. On the budget sheet, it looks like they only actually use like $16,000 of their designated fund to balance their budget out in 2013. But if you look at the 2012 designated fund to the 2013 designated fund, it went down about $200,000. So I'm not quite sure how that worked out on the budget sheet, but their designated fund did. Brenda, go ahead.
Yeah, I can tell you.
Okay.
When Dominique said journal entry already, it takes it out of there.
Okay.
It's always zero. So I looked back, and they were always zero. And so when she makes the journal entries to transfer the money, then it zeroes it out. The only reason we have 16,233 in that spot is because it was taken out of a different designated fund. So
Okay.
that's why that 16,000
Okay.
showed up there.
Okay. So it's a little bit different than what your budget sheet actually was showing. And we've done that with, I think, Department of Aging. We've applied some. I can't think right off the top of my head, but we have applied these designated funds. But the reality of it is that expenses is what drives this thing, and to do the programming that has been approved and agreed upon, the levy is the levy. How we pay for it, I guess, is what's under discussion right now. So does that help?
Yes,
Okay.
that helps.
All right.
Does anyone have any questions? Okay, then,
Question, Donna.
yes.
How much new construction do we have this year that would help offset the levy?
Not a significant amount, more than last year. .806, so that amounted to about $112,530. Only a couple thousand up from last year, so.
All right. Any other questions? Yes.
Anyway, there's no way to project that we're going to make any more money, we're going to save any more, we're going to get any more grants, anything next year that we're not getting this year, is there?
Well, you know,
We'll have less expenses.
probably not less expenses, I guess. The CCS program is something relatively new. That funding source is being developed, relatively new. We anticipate that it's going to be successful, but I guess we're still being conservative in our estimates on what that revenue. I mean, I think you increased it, what, 300,000? Or I mean, it was a fairly significant increase, wasn't it? Yeah. Grants, I don't see the state or feds coming through with any real new money. Do you guys? Does anybody out there see any? Jeff, is Department of Justice going to hand you a lot of money? Or? Yeah. So.
Well, you were referring to whether
Yeah.
the can down the road.
Yeah.
Well, if there are no other questions, we will start with our hearings. And the first one that is going to bring her budget up is child support. Kim? Sure, come on up.
Okay. I guess you can let me know if you have any questions. I did decrease the levy amount that I'm requesting from the previous year. That's because of the revenues that I'm increasing. This is my second time doing budgets, so last year was my first time, and I didn't want to change much from what was done before. And I can't speak for what was done previously when projecting revenues, but looking at the pattern of what we received in reimbursements and going through the budget sheet and having another county kind of go through it with me to make sure that I was looking at it accurately, you know, we didn't need the amount of money requested in our levy that we did before because we were getting reimbursements from the federal government. We get 66% reimbursement on most of our items that we spend on, and so therefore that's kind of where we get that, and we have current child support collections incentive that comes in. I used last year's estimate. They don't have the numbers for us for next year. The state had told us to use the same numbers as last year. They didn't foresee any changes. So I'm kind of going off of that, and that's where we stand.
I think Kim had put in some reimbursements. If you see on the second page, more towards the bottom, she's got reimbursement. She actually reimburses like clerk of courts and corp counsel and family court, district attorney. They've gone up a little bit, but that's really to our benefit because she can get 66% of that back through these reimbursements. So.
Yeah, we have cooperative agreements, so I'm contributing to other departments as well.
Does anyone have any questions for Kim? Thank you. All right, next, Clerk of Circuit Court. Missy?
My budget decreased because one of the deputy clerk positions that had been created prior to my arrival, I had a retirement in my office a couple of years ago. we had kept the money in my budget because of some changes that were instituted. Specifically, we upgraded the courtroom equipment with money that the board had allowed me to carry over, which was desperately needed. And now that we have been working towards transitioning to paperless in our office, the position that had retired, I believe 3 years ago, has been taken out of my budget. So I am coming in, I believe, $45,000 under what I was at last year. Also, the court security positions were taken out of my budget and put into the sheriff's department budget, which is probably where they should have been in the first place. Any questions? The court security.
Right.
When they were non-sworn, non-carrying, they were going to be part of my department, part of my budget. But once they became sworn officers, then they had to have the certifications and stuff, and they had to go under the sheriff's department budget. So
I thought you were saying that you were going to take this money and give it to the sheriff for the...
no. Well, they already did. They already did. They took some of my budget and gave it to the sheriff. Correct.
So, like, even though hers says it's down $108,000.
It's really only down 45 because they took the amount that was in my budget for the non-sworn security officers and put it in the sheriff's department budget.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
Aren't there always camps? The state funds quite a bit of the court system, but they're always kind of rolling back what they're reimbursing you for, and you're always going to deal with that issue, correct? I mean, that you don't
Correct.
see anything there?
Right now, no, because the director of state courts has taken a different position. So right now, we do not have a director that is lobbying for the court system. There is still the deputy director and the people down in Madison that are lobbying. But right now, we have an open director position, and there is a large push to right now increase the amount of money that the court system gets. Last month or the month before, the board had passed a resolution
That we would retain, or that lapse.
you were supporting, I don't even remember how the
Was it that money wouldn't lapse?
you didn't want the court system to sustain an $11.8 million lapse. Right now, what happens is the entire court system gets 0.85% of every penny of tax dollars. And if the court system were to retain 1 penny of every $1, then the state court system would be able to reimburse the local county governments in guardian ad litem payments, interpreter payments. There are we get a court support payment from the state, but because of the lapse that the legislature has imposed on the state court system, our guardian ad litem funding has decreased. It's decreased about $2,500 in the 4 years that I've been in office. The court support payment has gone down about $2,000. They do reimburse us for interpreters, but they only reimburse at $40 an hour, and some interpreters charge us $100 an hour if they are a rare interpreter. We have a very good Spanish interpreter here in Waushara County, and Enrique Soria, and he only charges us $40 an hour, which is what we get reimbursed. But we do pay Enrique travel time just because it's a benefit to us not to have someone come from Madison or Clintonville where we have to pay them more than the $40 an hour.
Do you have any questions for Misty? Thank you.
Thank you.
Land records?
obviously isn't anybody here from land records, so let me look at that. Land records, do you want me to go out there?
We can hear you, so.
Can you hear me okay? All right. Land records has adjusted quite a bit. Part of it is because the 25% of Sean's time, he's our property tax lister and does land records. 25% of his time has been put into the tax lister budget. And then the other thing is that the intergovernmental grant and aids went up significantly, and so that's been incorporated into this budget. So we did not apply any of their fund balance. They do have a fund balance of about $79,000. We did not apply any of that fund balance to this, but we did apply the entire grant that they'll be getting, which is unusual. They haven't done that in the past.
Do you have any questions or suggestions with this one?
Yes, Larry?
How can you have a negative revenue?
A
That seems to
negative?
me Negative revenue would be an expense.
Revenues are dealt with oppositely than expenses, so negative is a good thing in revenues. That means that, yeah, it's opposite of what you would think it would be. That's just weird accounting stuff.
It's a good thing when it's a negative. That means it went up. The revenue went up.
I'm not saying it's good or bad, I'm just saying
Oh.
that it seems to me it should be in the expense category if it's not a revenue.
Well, they're handled separately there. So you have your total revenue. So if you take away a revenue, it's a decrease. If you add, it's an increase. So it's just the opposite of what you would think it is. Where expenses is a negative when it's actually going up, right? No, it's a positive if it's going up and a negative if it's going down. So it's just the opposite of what you would think it is.
Does that answer your question, Larry?
Not really.
It's just one of those quirks in accounting.
Yeah, it's an accounting quirk, yeah. So you're comparing that increase in that revenue is decreasing your levy. So that's what you're always comparing it to. So if the revenue is going up, you're actually decreasing your levy. So that's what you're comparing it to. Sorry.
It still didn't answer it, did it?
Go on.
Okay.
Okay.
Did you have any other questions about this one? So that is really why this one went down, is because we're putting money of the property tax lister into the 25% of it is going into the property tax lister budget.
So we'll go on to the tax lister.
Oh, okay. So what list are you looking at?
Mills,
It's
the green one?
the one that we came up with at
Oh, okay.
order.
Tax lister. Mine are not in any order because I was shuffling through them also. All right, so the tax lister, basically, we've developed that one to actually reflect some salary and benefits for Sean's time. We haven't done that in the past. So 25% of his time is now being charged to tax lister expenses. So it's probably a truer reflection of what's actually going on, and it's not being charged to land records anymore.
Any questions concerning the tax lister?
And these are all increases because this department didn't exist.
It didn't
before.
exist before, yeah.
Some places it refers to him as tax assessor. I don't think that's a proper term for him.
Okay.
I noticed that too. I don't know where that came from, but we'll change it to lister.
If you know, I guess if you notice it in anything, just let us know and we'll fix that.
questions? All right, next we go to buildings and grounds. Randy?
All right, my budget went down due to the fact that I eliminated a housekeeper and filled it with cleaning service, so that was a savings of about $30,000. And we sold the South Annex, so utilities went down on mine too. To increase revenues, I think we're going to change the soda machines. We're going to take out the root beer and put Miller Lite. Think we can make some money? Oh, all right.
That's very good.
Talk about revenue.
Yeah. Randy, can you comment a little bit about your contingency fund and what you're saving that for, or what your
Well, the
future plans
contingency
are?
fund, I'm kind of saving it for, because in the future, the parking lots, as you see out here are in pretty bad shape, and so we'll be needing to replace them. One of the other projects is the North Annex garage roof is going to need replacing. That's over 25 years old, so some of that money was saving for that.
And every year you budget a certain amount of money towards capital improvements?
Yes.
Do you tend to use all of that every year, or does some
The
of it?
capital improvement, yes.
Okay.
I use all that.
Is
Some
this
of the savings year after year has been with maintenance and stuff, as far as contracts. You know, it depends how much work we need done, and some of its savings have been because Building and Grounds Committee has allowed me to change out old equipment with new stuff like air handlers or motors and variable frequency drives and air conditioning units, and it saves on maintenance by a lot.
I think, isn't your budget set up so that at the end of the year, if you have money left over, that gets rolled into your capital
Yes,
improvements?
it does.
Okay.
Yes, it does.
I think in last year, we actually did apply some of his fund balance to bring his levy down.
There was 36,422.
So this is another one that we did apply some fund balance in the past.
Any questions for Randy?
I guess I would have one more. Randy, if we were to apply some fund balance, would that be a detriment to you, if we were to apply something?
No. If we get a big project, then we just have to come back to county board for money,
Okay.
but, you know,
Okay,
no, I don't believe so.
okay. What would be, could you live with another hit of 36,000? If we kept it exactly the same, would that be a detriment to you?
No.
Okay.
Any other questions for Randy? Thank you, Randy.
What's the matter? Oh, I'm sorry. You don't see.
No. Go ahead. All right, economic development.
Everybody here? Okay. I guess I'll be doing, that's why, Ruth, because they just keep pulling my stuff out. Okay, economic development. Do you want to do the TREDC and the economic development at the same time? All right. All right, so we have the Washera Economic Development Corporation, and they are, which one are you showing?
This is
Okay, so they actually are asking for the same amount of money that we've asked for, since we started this, which is $40,000. This is a joint project with Marquette County and Green Lake County. Each group puts in $40,000. Bill Wheeler was hired as the executive director, and he helps all 3 counties with business development. So that would be, there's no change in that one. And then the tri-county one, basically, there's no change in that either. It's just a combination of all the money that gets put into that. We are the fiscal agent for that.
I'd just like to say that the cost of this tri-county development is split equally between all 3 counties. And if you search what's been done by Bill Wheeler, his work has not just concentrated on one county, but it's been evenly divided between all of the counties. You know, so Washare County is not losing out on it at all. You know, in fact, probably we're getting more help than the other 2.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions? Okay, then we'll move on to health.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Patty.
Hi. Basically, once you pull it up, you're going to see that where it is 0. We have some expenses that go up, some revenues that go down, some things that change, but we always make it work out to 0. So what kind of questions do you have for me?
Ruth's going to yell at me, but
Okay.
Patty, the Tri-County, the food program, have you been increasing those fees right along? I see you're
No, this
you're
is the
covering
first.
cost
This
through
is the first time that we'll have to increase fees, and we'll have to do it in come spring. And it's because that, you can call it a fund balance, because that's actually what it is, but it's owned by all 3 counties. And because it was relatively healthy, that I would say if you looked at it publicly, you would say we didn't need to raise fees, but we are going to need to raise fees now because we've been using that pretty healthy amount to actually, that's part of the reason why we can make our budget look as nice as it does. But not always, that isn't the only thing, but it's part of it. So we will need to raise fees. In that will, of course, we'll have some people that we charge licenses to that won't appreciate that. So we've held up for as long as we can because we've been doing the licensing since 2006. So we've never raised our rates, but they will be raised this year, or I should say in the spring, because that's something that comes in April. And that'll be the first time since 2006. But we're going to raise them the least that we can, which we believe will probably be about 15%. And then we will probably raise them every year incrementally so that we don't make people ouch much. And that will help us keep things reasonable. So, but it's never been raised since 2006, so we tried to be nice. But it's time to do that. Did that.
Any other questions? Thank you, Patty.
Okay.
EMS is next.
Well, we too also came in with a 0 tax levy increase. You are going to see a number of line items increasing for us this year because we went from basically a 5-page budget to a 13-page budget. That was due to the fact we itemized out all the different ambulances throughout the county. Now we're able to better track where our spending is at and what areas of the county we're actually spending our money, especially in the payroll and maintenance portions of it. There were items that went up and other ones that did go down. We do have an increase in revenues that's anticipated for next year to follow this year's increase in revenues, mainly due to call volume increase and also rate increase that the Public Safety Committee placed last year.
What is in your undesignated fund?
You have that up there. It's 100 and undesignated, 94,000.
Has the EMS dispatch donation, has that been given to?
That was moved over to the Sheriff's Department earlier this year, right?
Okay.
Yes, earlier this year.
It was used for training, wasn't it?
Correct, the training for the, initial training for the dispatchers for EMD. There's also some left over in that account for them to use on future training.
What are the plans for that EMS donations number there?
EMS donations, there's about 75,000 that's in there, 75,657 from past years. What we've used that for in the past is mainly large. We use about 30,000 a year or so out of donations for our public access AED program and other things, but we do buy some equipment out of that. Historically, in the past, we've used that for equipment such as defibrillators. When that bill comes in about every 6 to 7 years or so, you're talking about $250,000 that it costs to replace our defibrillators on the ambulance. So it is a pretty large expense. We've used that fund in the past along with equipment dollars to purchase that large item right there.
Don't you have a rotation on a rotating program? How do you replace them? You don't replace them all at once.
Oh, no, we do replace them all at once. The reason for that being is they're complicated units, and to have a different unit or a different year unit on each one of the ambulances is not beneficial to the providers that are out there. It's an ease of use for them, so it's we have been replacing them all together.
When was the last time you replaced those?
They're about 3 years. We're 3 years into our cycle right now.
So how are you budgeting to replace those then?
It is not a depreciated item. It's never been a depreciated item on our budget. Yes.
Not in your committee, but the donations, I would assume anybody donating is going to expect that going to you. I would hate to take any of that away and try to use it to balance the county budget.
Yeah,
for what it's worth.
Right, and by rule or by law, we're required to put on our donation letter. That's why you see on the donation letter every year what the monies are earmarked for. So there's a list of, in fact, the donation letter will be coming out probably 1st of December or so.
What's on your list this time?
It's continuing education for our paramedics. Have moved more of them to critical care paramedics. It'll be equipment is on there. It's on there every year. Public access AED program, which we spend about $10,000 to $15,000 a year on the public access AED. Also some training. We use dollars out of there for to cover some training costs for the fire departments throughout the county when they request us to do their training in-house.
So Jeremy, last year you had some fund balance that you applied, $40,866.
Correct.
Which account did that come out of?
The undesignated or unreserved fund. We don't anticipate using any of that fund this year. Our revenues are up from what we budgeted originally.
So you feel like you'll have a surplus at the end of the year?
Yes, I believe so.
Do you have an idea of how much surplus you'll have?
I would think right around the 100,000 mark would be a safe number. It's difficult to plan that out exactly. We get a rough estimate, probably right around the $100,000 range. It all depends on how the year ends for us. The call volume goes up and down. Obviously, we're moving into our winter season here.
So if you were to apply some fund balance again for 2015, would that be a detriment to you?
I believe so. Right now, we're still discussing the option of Hancock Station, and that's originally that's what we were planning on using those unreserved or undesignated funds for, as the new station in the Hancock area for the west end of the county.
Have you, are you going ahead with the cameras that we saw the presentation on? And if so, have you budgeted for those? Or is that something you can use your donations for?
They are budgeted in this budget. They are in the unit, and we get a report on that in public safety next week. So they've been in for about a month. Yep, for about a month. Right now, those that aren't on public safety committee, we've had new drive cam cameras for the ambulances installed. We're on a 120-day or 150-day trial for that program. It was free of charge to do the trial. After that point, then we can make the final decision to purchase those cameras and keep them on there.
Any other questions for Jeremy? Thank you, Jeremy.
You're welcome.
Next is Parks and Solid Waste. Scott.
Hi, thanks for the invitation. My budgets this year are flat except for salaries and benefits on both parks, advertising and promotion, and solid waste. Last year we started to use the equipment designated fund for the parks budget to decrease the overall budget. And essentially we're doing the same this year. I zeroed out equipment and vehicles, and when the time comes, we'll use the designated fund for those items. Is there any questions?
Scott always does such a good job on his budget, and his solid waste budget is driven, of course, by the cost of the...
And the volumes. The volumes lately have been fairly flat, so it's been kind of a lifesaver.
And you're down to how many employees you're down to?
Well, now, other than myself, we have 2 full-time employees in the department.
And then, of course, in the summertime, he gets summer help. Does anyone have any questions for Scott? Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Okay, treasurer is next.
My budget is up slightly due to salary and benefits, and a slight decrease in revenues, treasurer's revenues, because we don't have to do delinquent list and charge for those because of the web portal. So our revenues are down. Basically, it's just salary and benefits and data processing.
Anyone have any questions for Elaine? Did you put your new safe in here?
Pardon me?
Put your new safe in here?
The safe is in the 14. We're still working on that, if we can get one to fit in and get the old one out.
How old is that safe, do you think?
It's been there a long time, longer than I've been there.
And that's the problem, getting it out.
Right, it's very, very huge.
And unfortunately, Elaine can't get them to raise the interest rates at all on. So, thank you, Elaine. Don't be afraid to ask questions, guys, okay? Veterans.
Good evening. My budget is up slightly. It is entirely salary and benefits increase. I was able to absorb part of that into the rest of the budget, but not the entire amount. I am also very conservative when I project sundry revenues because I don't solicit for any incoming revenue. That is all just folks being willing to donate to the Veteran Service Commission Fund. So you'll see that that's zero. That normally actually comes in somewhere between $500 to $2,000 each year. So that can help actually offset that salary and benefits increase.
Questions? No questions for Bill? Thank you. All right, Family Court Commissioner.
Well, Mark's not here. He's at the Knights of Columbus meeting. Basically his salary benefits that went up. Indicate that contracted services, which I think the one that pays for home studies, you know which one that is, then? It's under,
The home study one, is that the child custody home study?
yeah.
That's under public charges for services, 2,000? Is that the one?
No, that's revenue.
Okay, you want the expense? Huh,
I
well,
don't know if it's the one under family court commissioner or family council. I think family counseling is our contract.
that's Winnebago, yeah.
Right. So it would be the contracted services under, the family court commissioner part. Right now it's $5,800. He said if you needed to cut his budget anywhere, that perhaps you could cut that one by a little bit. That it's been pretty level, and he has had stuff left over in that budget for the last couple of years. So he thought that if you needed to cut something somewhere, that would be one place where you maybe could take a little bit.
Which one was that, Ruth?
The one that's $5,800 contracted services that county has highlighted there.
Okay, thank you.
In 2013, the actual is 2,800.
It goes in ways on how often people ask for a custody study, and this would be a custody study in family court. And that doesn't happen very often because typically the judge appoints a guardian ad litem to do the investigation, and so that money comes elsewhere. And we are charging people for that too a little bit, but
So if you cut that in half, would that be too much? That 58, if you cut it in half to 29? Is that too much of a cut?
I would maybe leave it at 3.
3? Okay.
That sounds, yeah. Okay, any questions on that one? All right, we'll move on. Emergency government.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You'll see the
The increase in this budget is due to the maintenance contracts and repairs, and that was for the maintenance contracts on the UPS systems and at all of our tower sites. When we initially developed the maintenance contracts, they were paid in 2013 to cover all of 2014, so they were not a part of that 2014 budget process. We set it up so that all the maintenance contracts would come due for all the tower sites at the same time as the warranties on each of the units wore out. So that's where the majority of our increase was in this budget.
Tim, would you explain a little bit about your designated funds?
The designated funds that we have here, there are actually two of them here. The $6,038 we rolled over from the previous budget with the intent on using that to set up a emergency response vehicle that would be used not only by emergency management but would be used by the sheriff's department. It would be equipped with most of the equipment that would be coming out of the large bus that we have that we've taken out of service to respond to, any type of disaster, traffic crashes for the sheriff's department, crime scenes, and so on. We would be able to equip it with our communications equipment and have interoperability for the department with surrounding agencies if it was needed. And the tower expense, we have about $78,400 in unused maintenance costs. Those are there to help offset these minor costs that we see for maintenance at the tower sites and with our radio system. I believe we could, yes.
Is that the 11,849 you're talking about, Ruth?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you take that whole amount out of it, 11,849, Ruth? Is that what you're talking about?
You'd apply.
Asking, right.
Yeah, apply that amount. You add an additional line in your revenue of apply fund balance of
Yeah.
11,849 from the
When,
tower.
when you see the top, when you go to the top, there's the fund balance applied. Right now it's at 0.
Got it.
And you would put in 11,849 in that number. So it would reduce his designated fund by that much.
I don't think you want to touch the other one after all the fun we've had with some of those towers and all the problems we've had out there.
Right.
I think that 78, you don't want to touch any of that.
Well,
We're-
I think that's the one she's talking about,
Yeah.
though. That's the only one that's got enough money in it.
But that would reduce it then to
267, yeah.
266.
Is that lease an annual lease or?
The maintenance contracts are for a year.
The DNR.
Oh, the DNR lease? That's a one-time, yeah. Right.
But we had enough money from our bonding that we didn't have to use that all to pay for the cost of the towers. So we put it in this account to help pay for the annual maintenance.
So they can use the towers forever without paying anything additional?
Well, the lifetime of that particular tower.
Yeah, they're on one tower, right?
One tower.
Bless you, Dennis.
That new tower that we built here in the town of
Watoma.
they gave us $200,000 towards the cost of building that, and then we came in with enough bond money and under budget that we, instead of applying that $200,000, we put it into a designated fund to
The thing is, I don't wanna see it go a real lot, just because of the fact that, what we went through already this year with maintenance and stuff like that, the stuff that we didn't, that's happened out there that we didn't.
Right, and we're still in the process of finishing that, getting that project finished, so.
You're okay with what you've done, but I don't think.
Do you know, Tim, how much you're going to take out of that to pay for the?
No, I don't yet. I don't. We're talking about a couple of different surge protectors for that shelter house in Coloma, as well as meeting with Alliant when I get back next week. I'll set up a meeting with Alliant and Ruth and myself to discuss the incoming voltage issues to that facility.
No guesses on what it's going to cost?
Well, he told when I had my initial discussions with him, he told me it would be well under what we had set at the meeting for the expenditure. So I'm hoping half of what we talked about, probably about $7,500, $8,000, and that would be to put in the UPSs and then ground all of the fencing around the facility, because it's not grounded currently.
Are you going to have motions at the end of this on all of these?
Yes,
or?
I think so.
Okay.
So this one, we would take that $11,849 and apply it to the
Fund
bottom
balance.
line.
Yeah, the fund balance, yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
Department of Aging?
Guys holding up all right?
They're pretty quiet, aren't they?
I think we're getting to the halfway mark here. My budget, like others, ebbed and flowed with some increases and decreases, both in revenue and in expenses. Bottom line, the county levy increase is $15,301. And if Melanie would scroll up just a little bit to the salary and benefit increase, you can see that it's just under the total salary and benefit increase. So the other two areas that are highlighted there, the transportation of $6,500 increase, that one is actually offset by expense. So if you want to scroll up there, Melanie will show that expense, the revenue. We have an increase in volunteer transportation, a little bit lower. Do you see it? I don't see it. Oh yeah, $1,500, and then also a little bit lower than that, you're going to have a $5,000 increase in purchase of service for volunteer transportation. So that offsets that $6,500. And then the $9,100 for contract services is offset by $2,500 in purchase of service, I believe it was, for minibus, and then a decrease in expenses. And basically the transportation program, we went through a reorganization this year, 2014, when we lost our transportation coordinator. So we were able to make some of the adjustments that we needed to with some of the expenses. So essentially, again, the budget is really at salary and benefit increases only. I do want to point out that this budget does include an increase at the Poisippi Dining Center. Right now, they're open 3 days a week during the winter season. They've been requesting for a couple of years to increase to 4 days a week. And we were able to do that with a net increase in the budget of $0. But I just want to point it out. So basically, the amount that it will cost us to do that is offset by the donations that we'll be receiving. And that is really due with the reason we were able to do that this year is due to some changes because of the Affordable Health Care Act and not having to budget for benefits. That's pretty much it. I do want to say that this Department of Aging's budget has been frozen since 2009. You had me frozen from 2009 to 2012 at $355,420. And then I took a $10,270 cut in 2013. So I've been at $345,150. So this is the first time in quite some time that I've come in and asked for an increase. And part of the salary and benefit increase is also tied to the compensation plan that was approved this year. That went into effect January 2nd, I believe it was, of 2014. And that amount is $7,690. So of that $15,555, $7,690 is due to the compensation plan. And then also, I don't know if they have the two different budget scenarios or not, but my Commission on Aging Board requested that I put into this budget a request to go to our undesignated fund for the purchase of, they're hoping for 2 vehicles to support the home delivered meals program. That would not have any effect on the levy. It would come out of our undesignated fund. And those 2 vehicles that they want to replace, if we don't replace them at the end of 2015, one of them would have about 160,000 miles on it, and the other one would have about 153,000.
Debbie, you want to talk a little bit about your designated funds? I think that's information that is also on your spreadsheets.
So we have both designated and undesignated funds. The undesignated $90,000 fund is made up over a number of years of the balance of county levy that we would have left over. And our transportation trust is through our 8521 program. That's our minibus program that you see out there on the road. They allow us the opportunity to establish a trust with any amounts that might be left over due to unanticipated revenue or staffing adjustments, things like that. And basically we use that to purchase the vehicles when we need them. And next year in 2015, we are looking to get at least 2, if not 3 new buses. Now those are not home delivered meals vehicles. Those are the transportation where we, transport participants to their medical appointments and whatnot. The Transportation General Fund, that actually was established from a donation that we received from an individual who used the transportation program quite a bit. And now it has sort of a mixture of money in there. Some of it is United Way funds. A little bit of it is still that donation, and a little bit of it is actually money that's left over from when we had hail damage to our vehicles and chose not to get the vehicles fixed. What we use that fund for mostly is urgent need transportation when the county has to do some urgent need transports, or for after-hour transports when Washura Industries, who we contract with, they're willing to do the trips, but they were never willing to do them before if they didn't have a funding source to turn to when clients don't pay. And so that's what we use that fund for. The caregiver non-lapsing is also United Way funds that we were awarded when they closed down, most of it when they closed down serving this area for a period of time, and so that we were allowed to put that into a fund. The Washura County Health Programs, we use that fund really to support our evidence-based health programs. There's no county levy in any of those programs, so we occasionally come to this fund to help support when we don't get enough grants for the to meet the budget for the year. Similarly, the Add Life Prevention Project is used for the same thing. That was made up mostly of donations and co-pays when we first started doing the programs. And then our home repair fund, it actually started through USDA Rural Development. They gave us money to do this home repair program and told us that we had to find a way to be self-sustaining, and we did. We actually receive monthly a donation from somebody in the amount of $50, and so this fund sort of grows bigger than we can spend it. There's no levy attached to that program either.
That senior home repair program is done by volunteers.
It is done by volunteers, yes.
You have fund balance applied 35. What is that?
I believe that was a reduction from last year, a decrease. So last year, when we did the 2013 and 14 budget, we were dealing with sequestration. and some other cuts. And so we did have to, budget to go to our undesignated fund. I was able to reduce that quite a bit. And those of you who know me well, it's always my mission to see if I can try to reduce those kind of things even further without sacrificing quality to the people that we serve. So we'll continue to try to do that.
When I look at your budget, you still have 11,000 applied. Is that coming from your undesignated?
It's coming from designated funds. So it would be coming from, let me look here, just make sure I get it right. 9,325 is from the health program account. 1,000 is from the Caregiver United Way account, and 1,000 from the transportation for urgent need trip account.
Do you have any plans on the 90,000 that is in the undesignated fund? Do you have something that you're attaching that to?
Well, typically every year you make me go there to balance my budget.
So if we were to make you go to balance that or do that again, how much would that hurt you?
I would say it would be okay, but to answer your question first, we also would be looking to take those vehicles out of that fund as well. But I would ask, I don't mind going there, and whatever you make me do is obviously you're in charge, but I do feel that the compensation plan, that 7,000, what did I say, it was $7,690, that was something that you've already set money aside for through a resolution that you approved this year, and in fairness, I think that, that should come our way, if possible.
For 2014?
Well, and then it, continues to 2015. I mean, the expense doesn't go away, so.
So if you were asked to take a small amount, you don't feel that it would be?
To go to the undesignated? Yes, I kind of expected that would be what we'd be doing.
All right, okay, all right. Did you have a number in mind, Deb?
Like I said, I was hoping that we could at least keep in the levy the 7,690. So, okay. Or if you want to round it up to 8,000, that's fine too. Whatever you want to do. Yeah.
Okay. So that would change it. You would have to take, let's see, 15. So you would take about 7,000 then from the.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Good.
Do you have any questions for Deb?
And Mark, we did keep that Hancock site in the budget too, so.
They'll be happy.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Deb. Next, we have the Winnifox Library System. We have all our librarians in the crowd tonight. Thank you for coming.
Good evening. I guess I've been asked to answer any questions or to give any kind of background that you would like. I think all of us understand that the libraries have changed so much over the years, and they're no longer just a repository of books, but they are a service location for our public. And our committee, the Library Services Committee, felt that this was a fair approach, that by supporting the local libraries, we can encourage our patrons to use our in-county libraries rather than going out of county. Any kind of cuts would require reducing hours. That's self-defeating. We would like to be able to service our patrons here in our own county. And I think that's something that the committee looked at when they talked about the recommendation to the board.
No, I was just going to ask that. We reimburse Berlin Library. I mean, we give them a certain amount because they're in the county. But they were also on the list of libraries, out of county libraries that we are supporting. You know the list you gave me? I'll show you the list. They're also listed on here.
Yes.
Mark. And so we're not paying twice for.
Absolutely not. No.
No?
I assume that the one would be just for the Waushara County people that are in Waushara County. Then the others are those that go out of county for service.
So the other is for, okay, I don't live in that general vicinity, so if I go over there, and that's what this is, right?
It's for those people that are in that, the initial, the first one.
Right.
Is for those people that are in our county that are, they live here.
Yes, yes.
The others are just those that go there for service.
It still doesn't make sense
It's
to me.
kind of,
Well, it is.
So you're saying that the reimbursement for Berlin is based upon the number of citizens that we have in the Berlin district, and then we also pay Berlin because people from Washington
No.
go to Berlin?
No, the Berlin payment is for Waushara County residents who live outside of those areas that have their own library that are using Berlin Library, and it's based on, there's a formula in state statute that we use. The Berlin is primarily Aurora, Bloomfield, that area, because that is in the Berlin School District.
Right, I understand that. But then, why are we also paying them in the other?
You're not paying them in the other section. That would be only,
That's Oshkosh, Wapaka.
that would be Wapaka, Green Lake, Oshkosh, I'm trying to think what other ones that you get. There's about, I think there's 3 up in Wapaka County. I know Wapaka, and I'm thinking
Wyega and Fremont.
Wyega and Fremont get a chunk of that, yes.
Mark, last year we had an error in what
Yes.
was, we're sure that this is the right amount and double check.
I sure hope so, yes. I double check, triple check. Ask the library directors to double check my numbers, so I sure hope so, yes.
Okay.
So on this list that you gave Donna, this $3,500 is part of that $37,000?
Which 3,500?
that's just for movies, Ruth, that, it should be even more than that for all of them.
Well,
Yeah.
this that breaks out Berlin, this is all part of.
This is the number of items, not
Okay.
costs.
Okay.
So there's for the different library, or for these libraries, how much for?
But that's part of the 37,000?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Questions? Larry, you have one?
Just for the record, he said Bloomfield is using Berlin Library. I don't think Bloomfield is using so much as probably the town of Parsippany or town of Warren, those areas.
There'd be no charge for any Parsippany residents who are using Berlin, because Parsippany has their own library. So it is, and I was trying to think geography, and so I knew Bloomfield was right up there in that part of the county as well, so I figured they were going down there. I know a lot is Aurora. I was guessing on the other one.
Any other questions for Mark? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, zoning and land conservation.
Basically at zero except for the water quality program. You'll remember 3 years ago, I came before you and we had a STAR program, spent $25,000 on projects that weren't normally funded. And we used that money to leverage other state and federal funds to try to get more money into the county.
Is that turned on? I can't hear you.
It might have died.
So talk louder.
I'll talk louder.
Talk like you talk to Jerry.
Talk very softly. And so we took 3 years and spent $25,000 a year on projects. We showed them to you at county board. That's really what our increase is. I can run through.
Yeah. $0.50, I could probably buy them a pack.
It's on the bottom, yeah.
Yeah. Does anybody have to use the facilities while we're using microphones? Does anyone need a break?
Light is on?
Can you hear me now?
Wait, can we hear you now?
You can hear me now. So, did you hear everything that I said? Our budget is basically about 25,000 over because of the water quality program. It had been coming out of the general fund for 3 years, and there was a trial basis that was granted by the county board, and after the 3 years, it just seemed like it was time to put it in the budget. We did cover all of the other increases in expenses that we did have by raising some of the land use fees. And building is back up a little bit. We're more like at 2009, 2010 levels. So we do have more revenues coming in. So we were able to cover all the other expenses, but we couldn't cover that one. So that's where our budget's at.
How much of that 25,000 actually is being used?
Pretty much all of it. I think there was one landowner that backed out, and then, obviously we can't use it. We sign a contract for that year. But I think just once there was a landowner that backed out for 3,000 or 4,000. So
Is the 2013 actuals got 12,658?
that might have been what was paid out that year, and then some was carried over into 2013. We do have the ability to carry it over and pay out in the next year. Because of construction on some of these projects, if you get a contract later in the year and fall doesn't agree with the construction, but we have spent it every year except for one project that I'm aware of.
Do you have money in a designated fund then?
No.
So it didn't roll over, or it did?
Oh, well, it does, but I don't know how that works.
Okay.
I mean, it doesn't
Not
show up
this
on the
one?
budget.
It's not this one, the water
Oh,
quality
probably.
improvement?
Probably. Yep, that must be it.
Okay. So you do have some money in there?
Right, but that's
Last year.
that will, yes, and that 1 year after it's carried over, that disappears. And goes back into the general fund.
Any questions? Thank you, Jerry. All right, we are at surveyor.
Jerry was not able to make it tonight. We contract with Marquette County for services with Jerry, and so the majority of the costs in that budget are what we pay Marquette County. They did increase that slightly. And then his data processing did go up.
There's not much we can do with this budget. It is what it is.
Weren't we discussing at one time possibly contracting him full-time and then subcontracting him to Marquette County and, the opposite way around that it is now? Would that be better?
I think anything's possible.
We look into that possibly?
Sure. So you would like us to be his employer and we contract with
Yes.
Marquette? Okay.
See how that would work.
Okay. Okay.
All right, are there any other questions?
Okay, I'll check that. Okay.
All right. Let's move on to UW Extension.
Good evening. On the summary, it talks about the fact that there is some decreases in our revenue with significant increases in our expenses. As we take a look at the decreases in our revenue, the first item that is under there is a grant, and under the expenses, that washes out. So the grant money is no longer available to us, and we also do not have the expenses. The second one up there is the state aid fringe benefits, and as you take a look at that, the university calculates fringe benefits a little differently, so there was some catch-up in terms of the amount, and there was a significant increase in the charge of fringe benefits. So the dean provided us for 3 years' worth of funding, and this is a year where it has decreased, and then next year we'll lose another $1,700 out of our budget of help pay for the state aid fringe benefits. The major increase is the $20,000 in expenses under the salary and benefits. And at this point in time, there's 2 reasons that we're taking a look at requesting the increase. One of them is that Natalie's position, a specialist within our department, with the new healthcare system and healthcare laws, we have to pay all of her health insurances. So Deb asked the question to our office if we would be interested in considering increasing her from a 90% position to a full-time position. As we took a look at it, we identified some very specific areas where we could use some assistance. We do have some newsletters that come out of our office, and some of those are done by agents, and we would like to transfer some of that responsibility over to support staff. We also have 4-H has charters. Bernadette knows lots about charters. And there's a review process that needs to take place, and at this point in time, that's on my plate. We've done it for 3 years, and I would like at this point in time to train Natalie and Rosie to take on those responsibilities. We also have a website that needs someone to manage it. It's not very well managed at this point in time and is not kept up to date. We see a lot more traffic, and we would like to see that happen. So that's approximately $5,000 of the $20,000. The remaining $15,000 comes for the 4 agents, those of us who were here last Tuesday to do a report. Our services are contracted services with the university, and just as a reminder, 60% of our salary and fringes are paid by the university, and 40% is the county. The salary that is set for us is set by the university, so it is not negotiable. UW Extension did a similar study to the county. They did a compensation study and took a look at similar institutions across our region to take a look at where we stood. We have not received a raise from 2008 until 2013, so we are behind, and we knew at some point in time this would come back to catch us, and this is the year that it is catching us. The last 2 years, we received a 1% raise in each of those particular years. There was an exodus of staff because of this. Our staff fortunately stayed here, but as we took a look at the compensation study, we were behind about 10% in terms of salaries. The other thing that they took a look at in the salary study was inequity, and they took a look at the rank that we had and the time in the rank. And again, there was a significant gap between what we were being paid and what we would be paid based on the compensation study. So that's where approximately $15,000 of the $20,000 comes from. Questions?
Underline line item for travel, I notice you have $8,000 in that. What kind of travel are we talking about that you need that much in your budget?
We travel to a variety of meetings both inside the county. The majority of them are inside of the county, but we also do attend multi-county services, multi-county functions. The ag agent, Ken Williams, they have a regional ag specialization, so there is a sharing of expertise among the ag agents. All the ag agents in that do travel to other counties, so there is that also that opportunity there. There are times that we are required to go to different trainings and different functions, so that takes us out of the county also to do that. Many of the conferences that we attend, either on the state level or on the national level, are paid for us by UW Extension or some type of other funding source.
So you normally spend that much?
We did, I think if you look, did we take some out of that? I think we took $1,000 out of that. No, we didn't. Okay. We took money out of elsewhere. It says here's a $1,000 decrease on the summary. Okay, thank you. And the money from the grant program, we typically hire someone to do those grant projects, so that's where that money comes from. And that's also grant funded money. Thanks, Ruth.
Anyone else have any questions?
Thank you.
Highway. There'll be a lot of questions on this one.
Well, I won't take the half hour that you said I could have, Donna, but
In your dreams.
and I like Randy's revenue source, and I want to stand out and say that right away too. So, quick note: this one paper I handed to you guys tonight, implements of husbandry, has nothing to do with budgets, but at some point the county board has to pass an ordinance to comply with this new law. So you'll be hearing more about it, but this is the nuts and bolts and the cheat sheet on it. So feel free to read that at your leisure, but this was an easy way to get it out when everybody was here. We're asking for salary and benefits only, which is that 23 or 24,000?
710 or
140. And I brought Kathy along so she can answer all the hard questions. But we did supply you guys with some, and ladies, with some spreadsheets. The first one is this one here, where it has the years across the top, 2005, 10, and 14. And if you just look that over, you see over the years we've cut down staff, and that's how we've balanced the budget or helped in the past. We're down to the staff number that we need when it snows. We have to have a level of service for snow plowing, and when it snows, everybody has a seat to sit in, and if we reduce any more, we won't fill the seats. So you look at the labor rates and the hot mix prices. I took over in 2000 as commissioner. You can see hot mix has doubled. Oil is more than doubled. Diesel is more than tripled, or tripled anyway. Let me do the math. Yeah, it's about tripled. And that's a low price right now. We've paid very close to $4 a gallon at times when the fuel was high. The gas, same way. Levy dollars have gone up. But I guess the bottom line is the most important. Our money has stayed constant as far as wages and benefits, but we really had no levy increase other than wages and benefits for many, many years. And our miles of road has not changed. We still have the same amount of miles to maintain. So we are falling behind, and we've had this conversation with the committee and Deb and so forth. But if you look at this other spreadsheet with all the years, that'll show you zero increase, dollar increases, 0, 0, 0 for 3 years in a row. So we haven't been here asking for a lot over the years, just trying to keep our head above water. I did want to say on that spreadsheet that says highway notes analysis, contract expenses up. I don't know what that means. We're just asking for salary and benefits, so that's a typo, I think. So far out. So the next spreadsheet, I think, is the long one. I'm not going to go into detail on that, but I did a survey of all the counties in our region. It's an 18-county region, and 17 replied. You got to take this with a little bit of grain of salt, because I did the survey and asked the questions, and some of the answers didn't come back exactly according to Hoyle here. Some of the budget numbers don't add up. But if you compare the last three counties, Wapaka, Waushara, Wood, we all are very similar in miles. Out of the 72 counties in Wisconsin, I think there's only 10 or 12 that have more lane miles than Waushara County. So we have a lot of road miles, even though we're a rural county. So you go across and you look under the construction budget. Everybody has money for a construction budget except for two counties, and we're one of them. So we're called a maintenance county. We're just taking our money to maintain what we have. We're not making improvements. Construction budget is improvement dollars, where they're taking down hills, straightening curves, widening roads. We can't do any of that because we don't have the money or the budget for it. So if you go all the way over to the end, or almost to the end, where it says total dollars per mile, and look at the differences there, you can see we're at the bottom of the food chain. So I guess we're making do. I have talked to Deb and the committee about proposing bonding, which I'm not going to ask for 2015, but I'm going to lay the groundwork for it. I'm going to give you guys a presentation in October. It's my month to do a presentation, and the committee today said that I could do that instead of going through the long and boring annual budget. We have 33 employees, and we plow snow and we patch holes and that sort of thing. So next month I plan on coming with a PowerPoint and some reasons that I believe are sound for bonding. So I have a few more notes. I've got 27 minutes left. We reviewed the spreadsheets and how we deal with less money. Over the years, we've gotten rid of staff, as I've said. We've reduced the miles that we pave every year. We've reduced the miles that we seal coat every year. One of the rules of thumb in our industry is you build a road with maintenance, it lasts 20 years. So we need to pave 16.7 miles a year to keep that 20-year cycle going, and seal coat, I think it's about 43 miles a year, and to keep that 20-year cycle. Well, we're well below that 16.7 miles. We did 1.7 mile one year. When we are lucky enough to get federal or state money, which there are programs that we get, some every 2 years, some every 4 years, and some every 5 to 6 years. We use that money for maintenance instead of improvements, which is what it's really supposed to be used for. So that helps us keep up, or at least stay afloat a little bit. So we're not in that 20-year cycle anymore. We're falling behind. And although our roads look good today, and I think they are, we still have the narrow shoulders and the 90-degree curves, and they are getting worse because we're not doing that preventive maintenance that we used to do in its entirety because we just can't afford it. The other thing is the last 3 years we've been over budget for winter. When we go into November 1st, I know what our 10-year average costs are for November and December, and so we always try to be in that, around that number, so that we're on pace for being within budget. Well, we've had a couple of bad winters, that's no surprise, so we can't, we can't budget and say every year the winter's going to be funded because of the way Mother Nature operates. With that said, when we are over budget, total budget, summer and winter maintenance, we have taken care of that ourselves with our extra or undesignated funds, which Kathy and I lovingly call the secret squirrel account, but don't put that in the minutes. So we take care of ourselves when we do go over budget. And, we can put more money in the winter budget to make it look good, but then we're just stealing from summer. So I look at it as one budget, and we do the work accordingly and try to come up with that average for the last 2 months and try to make it. We're on pace this year for being in that. If we have an average winter, we'll probably be okay. If we have above average winter, we're going to be over budget again, and so forth. Our secret squirrel account right now has $573,927, I believe, is the number. And when we met with the auditor at executive last month, he said that fund balance should be about 25% of your budget, which would put that number over $700,000. So we're already under what our auditor says we should be. That's the account we'll use if we get 16 inches of rain and we lose roads, or tornadoes where we've got these things that come up that we don't budget for or plan for. So that's what that fund is for. That's the fund we steal from when we are over budget. So that's where we sit with that one.
In defense of this spreadsheet here, your contract expenses are up by $391,000. I mean, they're offset by revenues.
Right.
But strictly speaking, they are up by almost $400,000.
Yeah. Okay. I don't look at a lot of line item stuff.
Designated in this budget is contracted services, all the salary and benefit services, contracted services.
Right. Highway has a screwy accounting system. We have the two funds, one pays the other, and that's why Kathy's here in case somebody asks me a hard question about that. But the bottom line is I look at the number, summer and winter, and we do the work according to that number. That new IOH law that's here that I passed that information out for, that is now allowing everybody to travel 15% heavier than what they did before the law. So now instead of 80,000 gross on a vehicle, it's now 92,000 on implements of husbandry or farm equipment. So that's going to impact our roads too. Waushara County roads are not built. Some of them are built on sand, some of them are built on clay. This will impact long-term the condition of our roads. I have a list of ideas to fix our problems. The first one is give highway anything they want. That one's probably not an option. Bonding, as I talked about earlier, is an option that I will lay the groundwork for next budget cycle, which I will not be here for. There is a wheel tax available that all the car registrations in Waushara County, you can put an extra $10 or up to $20 on that registration, and we get that, and it's used for highway funds. It doesn't add up to a lot of money, and it is a very unpopular funding source. St. Croix County does it. There's another county that does it. There's a couple
Chippewa just passed
Chippewa. There's a couple of big cities that do it, but there's not a lot of counties or municipalities that use that. It's not very popular, and it doesn't give us a lot of money. There is a law, a local sales tax option that's in Madison right now that they're working on, that a county could charge an extra 0.5% of sales tax coming back to the highway for road work. That's not passed yet. We don't know where that's going. I don't really have a feel for that one, but that one's coming. It's in the legislature now, and of course they're not in session, so that is an option. Again, not a lot of money, but it takes the first penny to fill the jar. So, in summary says, you have a hard job and tough decisions to make. Good luck. Do we have any questions?
Questions for Tom? And you did go over your 10 minutes, Tom. Oh,
I took the rest of Randy's. He said I could have it.
Well, there you go. I thought you took Bill's, but. All right, Register of Deeds.
Okay, I had three major areas that I wanted to touch on. The first one is the decrease in revenues. When I had originally done the budget, I feel like I was probably a little bit overly cautious. I ended up going back and looking at figures from 2011 through 2013, and was able to increase the revenues. I think it was like by $10,000, so that helped a little bit, but not completely. Recordings are down a lot. They were down a lot statewide, and it's really the only thing that I have to predict where I'm going to end up. The $5 redaction fee sunsets at the end of this year, so that is taken off, which was a designated fund and should be a wash anyways. And then there was a significant increase, I would say, in salaries and benefits, mostly mine. I actually took insurance this year. And then the third one is the data processing. And a portion of that is the new software that I got. It actually increased my annual maintenance fee about $4,700. So then I just wanted to kind of touch on where like I said, I think I might have been a little bit overly cautious, but I try to be optimistic but also realistic. So currently we collect $18,000 in contract user online people, remote access users. My software, my conversion is just now getting complete, but I do have users that have been using it for about a month and a half now, and I did pull a report today. Just based on the subscriptions that I have right now, I would be at $19,500 next year. That would not include any print fees, and it wouldn't include the second, never mind.
So under public charges, is that what you're looking at, that one?
Remote access revenues, yep.
So you're thinking that should be 19.5?
I think for sure it can be 19.5 because that's just based on what I have now, and I know that there are going to be more that are going to have to sign up with subscriptions. But I guess, I mean, I could put a guess together for you. I did not do that for tonight. And let's see. I guess that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Yes. Well, the online purchases here is the second. There's two ways that remote users can access our records. One is a subscription, and that's the remote access revenues, and then the other one is a pay-as-you-go. So they charge $5.95, and we collect $2.25, and then we also get all the copy or all the print fees for that also. It's just hard to. We've never charged for searching, so it's kind of hard to guess.
Do you feel that that's an appropriate amount, that $41.36?
That was actually the amount that Fiddler kind of came up with. Okay. So I have no idea on that one. Like I said, I could come up with a number. I think for the 18,000, it would be a guess, but I think I could come close. But I really have no idea what the Tapestry is going to do. I'm hoping that because it's more expensive, that people will actually set up subscriptions. So then it's a definite. You're collecting X amount of dollars a month. That's how I like to do it. people that really go on there every, you know, a few times a month and get a few copies a month, I was able to figure out that if they printed 6 documents, it would pay for them to do the lowest tier, the $25 a month. So I'm trying to get them to sell that.
All your problems with your new software are all, have been taken care of, I assume? No. No?
Well, there's not problems with the new software. It's problems with my old software.
That has not been taken care of?
We're still having.
Okay, all right.
Questions?
Any questions?
Do you want me to put figures together? I mean, I don't know, I don't understand, I guess my cutoff is, like I said, I just was able to run a report together to get like September figures, so. Can I make changes to it a little bit? It's not gonna be a lot, but. The other
Yeah.
thing that I did want to remind everybody with the annual maintenance fee is that when my new software gave me a quote, they based it on the number of recordings that I get per year. And at the time, I think I shot high, but it was 7,000. And then I went to them and I said, I really think I'm going to come in a lot less than that, like 6,000, maybe 6,500 tops. And they actually put in our contract that if after the first year my recordings are down, that they will redo the contract and relock me in at whatever rate. So potentially my actual annual fees could go down about $2,500 also. But
And when, you wouldn't know that really for 2015, but 2016?
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Questions?
Thank you.
Okay, coroner.
Okay, well, I talked to Rolly, and he had knee surgery. He wasn't sure if he'd be able to make it today. But basically, his increase is the salaries that you approved at county board. We set the salary and benefits for the year in order to, it had to be set prior to the primary, prior to the election.
This is a pretty bare bones budget as well. Do you have any questions concerning the budget? Okay, let's move on to the sheriff then.
Good evening.
Joe?
We have before you a request for 2 correctional officers in this budget. We have tried many things to balance our budget over the years. Some of them have worked, some of them have not worked. We have looked at all our expenses and it comes down to people. Over the past years, we have tried to meet our budget demands by using people to handle 2 different jobs. But this smoke and mirrors gimmick has not worked. The duties are too demanding to try to have one person handling 2 jobs. We need dispatchers doing dispatch, we need corrections officers doing corrections. By staffing these 2 areas, we can keep road deputies on the road where they are needed. One of the things that is also before you with in conjunction with Human Services and District Attorney's Office is a detective position. If this position would be approved, that position would be assisting the District Attorney and Human Services with their workload, and that would immensely help all 3 of our offices. We work on a system of priorities. We are there to respond to all emergencies. These could be vehicle crashes, domestic fights, weapon calls. If there are no emergencies, we take calls for services. The patrol deputies also cover the county and find violations and need for assistance on their own. We then will investigate crimes that we're involved with, and we will begin to look to find a solution to someone to charge. Crimes against people take first priority. Property crimes take a secondary seat to crimes against people. This way of doing business does not allow us to plan our activities out too far. One call can change everything. Our volume is not decreasing, but without a change in staffing, we will just start to collect information, fill out reports, and not spend time investigating property crimes. At the present time, we can be somewhat successful with property crimes if we get a lot of information from the victim and we've got something to go on. We would like to solve crimes, but the way things are going, I do not see any reductions in our activities. Last Friday, I was going to assist Melanie with helping deliver board packets to you folks. I started off with, and we started at Nice, I finished meeting Bernadette, got into my car, and we were immediately dispatching all of our available units to the lost 3-year-old that walked away from home just south of Wautoma here. While en route, our DNR warden found the child by the rod and gun pump, probably about a half mile away from where he walked away. I just continued because our people had the situation under control, begin to finish delivering packets. I was a mile away from Larry's house when we got a call of 3 people standing outside the school at the Aurora camp, just north of Berlin. One of the people was pointing a gun at the school. We responded with everybody we could. We asked for mutual assistance from our Granite Police Department. Kurt Olson from our office, our Granite officers, and myself were the first ones to arrive. We found the 3 people that were described to us over the radio. We took them into custody. We did not find a weapon on them, but we had information from other witnesses in the camp that said a male took off from the scene, had the weapon, and went down to a house at the far west end of the camp. We also had information that he had his 2-year-old and his 4-year-old daughters inside with him. We approached the house, and the subject would not come out. We had a standoff that lasted for 90 minutes. We had assistance from the Berlin Police Department. We had assistance from the Green Lake County Sheriff's Department. Winnebago County, we had requested assistance from Winnebago County for the emergency response team, and they were on the way when the subject finally walked out. During the course of that incident, our dispatch advised us that we had a subject up on Porters Lake Road that was threatening to commit suicide by gun. We called out our people, our night staff that was due to come in. At 5 o'clock, we called them in early, and we diverted state troopers and our DNR warden that were en route to help us in Aurora. We sent them up to help our deputies on Porters Lake Road. Both situations were resolved without incident, but these types of calls take priority, and as such, I wound up finishing delivering the packets on Saturday. We need the assistance, we need the help, and that's what's before you. I know you're going to have questions, and I asked my administrative staff to come with me because I wanted to make sure we could provide you with the correct information. Do you have questions?
Now is the time. If you have questions, please ask Jeff the questions while we're here at this meeting and not when you're going to your car after the meeting's over. Please ask the questions now.
So the salaries include the courthouse security,
Yes.
which are 3 part-time officers,
Yes.
and the 2 correctional officers that you're requesting for the power shift.
Yes, our proposal would be we would hire 1 correctional officer at the first of the year, and then midsummer, midway through the year, we would hire a 2nd correctional officer to allow us to staff what we would call a power shift. They would be assigned work from 10 in the morning till 10 at night, and that's when a majority of our activities take place in the jail. Also, this budget does also include a secretary position, which we did not have for a lot of years, and those duties were spread amongst the administrative staff. So it's the 3 part-time courthouse people, a full-time secretary in our office, and then these 2 additional correctional staff. The detective position that we're proposing would be coming out of 2 other departments' budgets, but we would be the ones that would be paying for equipment and a vehicle for them. Somewhere down the line, it would be my goal to try to get 2 more dispatchers to assist in the dispatch area. Dispatching has changed tremendously over the last 15 years, the last 10 years. The days of having a phone with 3 lines coming into it and a radio console have changed. Now jailers to go in and work at dispatch center, because it's one of those situations, if they're not in that center a lot to use those skills and hone those skills, we put them in that dispatch center, and they are pretty useless because they're not able to respond and to do the job as somebody that's in there all the time.
And I add too that the committee felt that that new secretarial position was,
That's already been approved by the
yeah.
board.
But I mean, that's why, the reason we did that was because there was no one sitting in the outer office to answer the window. So we kind of forced that position on you. That's not something.
No, and we greatly appreciate it. It's well used. We are very fortunate to have.
That is just a secretary, though. That's not a sworn officer or anything like that.
That's correct.
So that one and the 3 courthouse security officers are ones that you already approved, a part of that 268.
They're already in that.
That's-
They're in there, yes, that is correct.
Those were positions already.
All of the positions have been worked into the budget. It's
Right,
just that the board has already approved the 3 courthouse security and the secretary. Next month, depending on what your recommendations are, next month there would be more positions that have already gone through personnel that will be brought to you for an up or a no, so up or down.
Jeff, are those added positions you were talking about, those other 2, I think you mentioned, are they included in that salaries up there already?
Yes.
Not the dispatch, the
Oh, I
corrections
know
are.
that.
Okay.
Not asking
Didn't he say that one was gonna be hired
Yes.
midterm?
One's-
So that is, I feel that's very good on his part, because it's saving you some money in the long run, instead of including it, hiring 2 right away, you know?
Well, It's
Yeah,
more
that's-
like a 1.5 position that you're adding there then.
Yes.
Right, exactly.
So you'll feel the full effect of that one in 2016.
Right.
In the dispatch area, 911 dispatch, 2014, you estimate $824,000. And then you're requesting $780,000. Why is there a decrease, I guess?
What's the year you want?
7 of 20 or 8 of 20? 7 of 20.
What was your question again, Tom?
Well, the estimate for 2014 is $824,901, and then your request for 2015 is $780.
It looks like you're gonna be over budget in 2014 in the dispatch area.
Was there a reason why you're going to?
Did you hear that, Pat? There was a decrease in salaries?
It's a salary issue that we had, where we were given salary numbers, and then because of the 80-20 positions, you know, things kind of got flip-flopped somehow, and there were 2080s and 80-20s, and that's why you got the difference in salary.
Randy's referring to an 80-20 position. That is a position that we have 4 of our people are trained 80% corrections, 20% of their time would be used in dispatch. We have a core group of dispatchers that if everybody's well, everybody doesn't use vacation, we can staff the dispatch center with 100% dispatchers. If somebody is sick or takes vacation, we use these 80-20 people to come out of the jail and to work in dispatch, and that's what an 80-20 position is.
So, Pat, if you look at the next page, 8, you'll see that their estimated for their jail is less than what they
Is
were budgeted
down.
for. So those 2 numbers kind of correlate.
So
So they said-
it's an accounting glitch, yeah.
It was something that we had talked to Donna Teschner about, and also Debbie, because Darlene and I kind of questioned how that came about, and we were able to figure out that no matter which way it went, it was gonna be a wash. It was just an accounting error on both sides.
Those 80-20 positions are one of those examples of somebody that we train in both corrections and dispatch. But as soon as there's an opening in jail, that's 100% jail, those for us, so we wind up hiring, we wind up training them in jail, and we also wind up training in dispatch. And now with emergency medical dispatch, our policy and our protocol is that only people that are trained in emergency medical dispatch can take a seat and sit in that dispatch center. So that's part of this cycle that we have, is we keep on losing people from those 80/20 positions, and they wind up going full-time in the jail. And that's one of those recurring things that we're dealing with, is training and hiring. Having somebody take those two positions, which, as I said earlier, causes some heartache for people that don't work in the dispatch center all the time.
Any questions? This is a huge increase, but I think Jeff has explained why it's necessary.
I'd just like to comment that the more people that we have and the more crimes we have, we need protection from the sheriff's department, and we all demand those services. And I know you're coming in with a big increase in your budget, but I think the people of Waushara County want to be protected, and they want their crime solved.
Thank you, Russ. We have a very good group of people in our department. They do yeoman's job. They do a lot, and you should be proud of what you're getting from the sheriff's department. But we are worked, and we have worked, and we're not wanting for something to do. I mean, it comes to us all the time, and the more that we can staff our jail and we can staff our dispatchers, that keeps me from putting road officers to the side, and I can keep them out on the road where they can do good, and we've got a good group of people we should be proud of.
You know, I hear every once in a while that the sheriff gets everything he wants. And truly, if he got everything he wanted, this would be a lot higher. We're dealing with necessities right now, and because I know there are things that we could get for him, computer stuff that would make his job a lot easier, and we can't add that right now because of the things we absolutely need. So I think we're going to have to live with the increase. And Russ is right. People want to be protected. A question I do have on your thing that you attached to your budget, the people that have been known to set off an alarm to see how long it takes you to come, are we charging them for that?
What I was referring to there, Don, is it's not the homeowners. Homeowners, under our alarm policy that we have in the county, if somebody has an alarm in their building or in the home or the residential or building, wherever the case may be, they register that alarm with our office, so we have contact information. We know who to contact if the alarm goes off. And if we respond to alarms and it's a false alarm, such as the wind sets it off or a mouse runs across the floor and sets off the alarm, the building is secure when we arrive there. We have a system in place to send them a fine or to bill them for false alarms. What I was referring to in that letter packet is bad people, bad guys will set off alarms to see how quick somebody responds. Somebody will call in or try to set off a residential alarm or burglar alarm at a business to see how long it takes for law enforcement to arrive. Some people have been known to do that to plan out whether or not it's worthwhile to try to rob this place. We haven't seen that a lot here in this county, but across the country, it's a well-known way of life where burglars they'll see what kind of a response they get. People robbing banks will check and see what kind of a response law enforcement has, what kind of presence law enforcement has in the area. So that's what I was referring to in my memo is people will test us to see how fast or when we respond to alarms.
I would assume that's also the time of day and whatever, and how many officers you have, and if they can kind of find out where the officers are at the time. The whole day.
Yes. Under an ideal situation, if we get a burglar around our residence, we will send 2 officers at a minimum, because if we come and we find a door that's open, we need to have assistance to go through the building. We do not want our people to go into a building with an open door by themselves. They need to have an assistance. So ideally, we try to send 2. Doesn't always happen. If we're in the middle of an event or something's going on, we're busy with a traffic crash with injuries, we can't respond to that. We won't respond to it because we're just tied up, we're busy. Last Friday, when we were out in town of Aurora, we could have 15 burglar alarms go off, and there was nobody that was going to respond to those. So I mean, it's important for us to respond to those, because if we want to keep our heads above water with property crimes, we need to have those cars show up at those places and check those doors and to let people know whether they're there. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Jeff.
Which way you wanna go, here?
Maybe the jail didn't. District Attorney.
Or do we want to?
You want a break? Okay. I guess we're
Scott,
gonna take a
dance,
break.
dance or something.
No. Well, Everett, you want a break? We're gonna take a break. 5 minutes. I thought he was kidding, Rick. He always gives me a hard time.
Or is it just in the quick? Am I a hot flash thing, or are you guys warm?
How are we gonna do this? Are we just gonna approve?
When's it gonna be? You know, I know it's my own fault. I worked for Worked for Gary 20 years now. It's not automatic
You know
giving.
what?
Give your employees increases? Maybe you do, I don't know. Whether things are tough or times are tough.
Yeah.
There's none of them.
I'm so naive. Mary Poppins.
They want $15 an hour. You know what that's gonna make a Happy Meal with? Nobody buy Happy Meals. What do you do?
We can still go to McDonald's for less than 5.
Interesting. Pardon? What are you gonna do? Either you cut services or you. Look at it.
333 quite good.
Was it? Come down then. Which is good.
339.
334. One way or the other.
I'll be fine.
You would use Dennis's bubble.
We approved the half of the sheriff. Increase it. We approved half. Increase it.
Some of it was from them in the courthouse. It looks bad, but it's not. I mean, I didn't try it.
Did they hire a secretary?
I don't know. They got one open or not. They were gonna because they had a dispatcher that was doing all the secretary work. So they're doing their dispatching job.
No, you can't do a good job.
Well, I like it? No, I don't like that it's going up $500,000. That's more than I've ever made in my life, working all the years I have. Yeah, that's why he's 88 and still driving truck. Oh, I tell you, it's.
I like some of those highway wages.
Yeah, some of that.
Yeah.
That's a federal. Yeah.
I know guys who were hauling potash for last year. They get paid for it. You get paid.
Yeah, but that's insurance, your own tires. You gotta have
That's
that.
the federal thing. You pay this much for that truck.
It's nuts.
Break the ice?
Everybody got to go. I did. Yeah. Hopefully we're done in another half hour.
Yeah, break in. Hit that little restaurant there in Babcock. That son of a bitch all up. Legs. And they went out to Ocean Spray. And there was a forklift.
Do some job that they would never do it again instead of, now don't you do that again. That's why.
Yeah.
There's no.
They broke into the office. Been in the plant.
Yeah.
They were scared to fuck with the berries until they could put poison in there.
Guess who pays for that?
Yeah.
Mr. Consumer.
Afraid I'm gonna wheel my
Transfer that somehow.
Yeah,
I had to take my load this morning at 6:30. I had to take it down to the station.
Get a good crop.
Somebody said it's as good as it's ever been. I
Yeah.
think the berries. Pricing was
Friday.
Yep, I wrote it down. No, if I remember to call that guy and give it to him.
Email you that link. Pull it up. That was one hell of a bear. They call them Samsons. He's running out of this. Really? Yeah, this is. But he was running out of the balls. Obviously, he's full of cheese. And yesterday, when I had a camp meeting, over to fill up my car with gas for a premium.
I should have got them cold feet. Quarter and take the piles.
Hotel station
Well, I
there.
had 20 piles all together. Some were here and some were over there a lot of chasing. Well, I laid on.
I know
You know,
that.
it was through the well at noon. Didn't look too bad. It was probably from here to the windows there.
When I have to go up to
So I looked at one noon. I looked the second one. Holy balls and wind started picking up them leaves and went right to that woods. I left the last pile. He was going to say, get done. I said, no. I got cold feet. I didn't want to. I want to do a little at a time, not all at once. I want to make the woods. So I left one pile. Well, I got to consolidate some of them together tomorrow anyway. So
Back there anyway. Oh, he's being foreclosed.
he picked up, I guess, Rich has got 60 acres somewhere. They want us to put it off again.
Cars or shit like that.
Be a desert pretty soon in Oklahoma.
Yesterday,
Said that.
acreage.
They tried to call your house.
That they're clearing out.
Everybody likes cheap.
by the time we get thinking here, it'll be $3. It was three.
They always love wearing one of my hats.
So it'll be $3 for the rest of the
See
time.
mine come July, they're coming
Okay, I got three.
Washington State. They're long, they're meeting in the park. Road across to,
I'm glad Bob says you want to send it. I won't take one. She says, I think you bacon, lettuce, and tomato. My God, I'm glad she did. Otherwise, my stomach would be growling by now. She was right. She says, it's budget. That might take longer than you think.
we got on the short.
No, I'm good, thank you.
Years go back when they were small.
But I got it so far. We've got a lot.
I have one.
That's good. If there were
There's another hit coming. Well, this one, big.
in other words, that 70 will disappear real quick.
Okay, is everyone ready? Okay, we're gonna get going here again, and
Past my bedtime.
Scott is dying to present his budget. I can tell.
Okay.
All right, thank you for giving me the opportunity. As it relates to my budget, if you look at the numbers, there really is not a lot of change except for a proposed position increase, or excuse me, the creation of a new position. Otherwise, the budget would, I think, be relatively neutral. And so we budgeted for 40% of a new position, and that position would be this. We essentially, an investigator assigned to the district attorney's office at least 2 days a week. That investigator would then be shared with the Department of Human Services and would be used for them as well to investigate their offenses and their cases that they're working with. What this person would do, and what I would propose them to do, is be assigned to my office 2 days a week, much as they have in other counties. For example, Winnebago has 3 DA investigators, and some other counties have 1 or 2. These people would help me bridge the gap on referrals that I receive in my office. So what happens is at times I receive referrals which are law enforcement claims that a crime has occurred. I review them, and when I look at them, I think maybe there is a crime there, but there's some pieces missing. And I need to put those pieces together. Right now, what I try to do is go back to the sheriff's department and ask the detectives to see if they can do what we call follow-up investigation. Usually they do a very good job of that. But at times they're overtaxed and at times they're overworked. If I have a DA investigator for 2 days a week, I think I can, number one, help the victims of the county. That's the biggest impact. I could help the victims by getting to them quickly and efficiently. And number two, would help me prosecute the cases. So what does that mean? I would actually be asking that person daily, this is what you need to do. We have a cell phone. I need you to take it to somebody so that we can hash that cell phone and find out what's on there. We took that, we haven't done it, I need you to do that. I noticed that going through the reports, there was a statement of another person who may have been in that house when that sexual assault of that child occurred. I need you to go out and find that person. Not 5 days from now, I need you to find them now. And I need you to take a picture of what they saw, the area that they're at, and what they observed, and get a statement from them. That's what these people would be doing, and that's what they would be doing perhaps 2 days a week for me. I would give them a list, and they would try to bridge the gap on cases that need pieces put together so that I can prosecute them. That way I could get these cases out more efficiently, and the victims themselves are not waiting for a response from my office, and I can make a call on a case. Either it's there or it's not there, and I can do that in a very much more efficient manner. Either I can prosecute the case or I can't. And so what I'm asking for is actually, I guess, an increase in our budget to cover the salary that would come with that proposed position. Aside from that, there would really be no net increase out of my office, aside from that particular position being either approved or not. Is there any questions about what I'm looking to do and how that may impact my office?
I think we all see the need. Do you have a question, Larry?
How is the cost divided up between the 3 departments?
It would be 40%. I think we projected 40% of the DA's office, which would be budgeted by an increase here, and 60% I think has been put forth through the Department of Human Services. So they would use 60% 40, but then we would share that person. That person would be in this building. That person being an investigator would be assigned to our offices so that we could directly send them out in the field and do follow-up. Jeff Nett's office would be outfitting that person, obviously because it's going to be a sworn deputy. If I'm taking statements and the like, I need somebody who can swear under oath at trial, otherwise they're not really good to me. Outfitting them with a gun, badge, SWAT cars, he can do that. The DA's office can't, either from Human Services, so he would be partially contributing in that regard. So it'd almost be a three-way split, primarily with Human Service, we second, the Sheriff's Department third.
Did you split it up 40, 40, 20? Was that how you split it? No?
It was 40, 60, and we were supplying equipment and vehicles, so that was our part of the program.
60% is 47,874. So that was Human Services.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any other questions about that position?
Just one comment. This is something we had talked about when Glenn was still our director, and we've been looking at it for quite some time. I think it's really important.
I believe this was offered a few years ago, and, you know, it fell through, but I think it's something that really needs to be done. Unfortunately, there are way too many bad guys out there.
This would help us bridge the gap. There are a lot of people that call us and say, where are we on certain issues? I can send somebody out, and I can actually send them out and say, I can get the statement, we can take a photograph of the intersection, we can get that person before he leaves. Time is of the essence, and there's a lot of data that we're doing now. And Jeff is really aware of that. We get phones and so many crimes now. We got to hash this. We get computers, we got to hash this. We got to take them places, bring them back, and we got to run the data. It's very difficult for me to ask a detective to stop what they're doing on a new case and kind of come back and pick this up. This person would be in my office, I'm going to assign them that task every morning. This is what we need to do with an expectation of when it could be done so that I can go back to the victim and say, I can make a charge or not. And I can do it quickly, more efficiently.
You talk to other law enforcement officers around our area, and they are amazed at the crimes that Scott prosecutes. They have cases that they believe are solid and they're not getting prosecutions on. We take stuff from Scott and we are getting prosecutions on things that are occurring all the time. But we are the envy of law enforcement around central Wisconsin because of the work we have, the working relationship we have with the district attorney's office. By giving the disposition to Scott, that'll allow him to expedite things and make his operation much more smoother and not depend on us all the time to try to get somebody free from our detective office to follow up.
They do a wonderful job. I can do more for you if I can sew them up. If I can sew those cases up. Sometimes they just have pieces. And do a little bit more. I think this would be a major step in the right direction.
Thank you very much, Scott. All right, victim witness? Was that part of it?
That's another budget, but that one really is just $700 increase, which is partial, part of the salary and benefits increase. We do get partial reimbursement from the state for this, about $16,000 a year. What the state does is they budget a certain amount, and then they divide it by the counties who turn in their reimbursement things. So it changes every year. So it used to be, I think when I started, it was 90%, and then it went down to
86
80, and then it went to 60, and so now they don't really give us a percentage. They just have us turn in our things, and but we get about $16,000. And this is the person who has to make all of the statutory contacts with the victims and provide all of those forms, get all the information so that when they go to court, the judge and Scott know whether or not there's a victim who wants to provide a statement. They get the restitution summaries, and she currently is 3/8.
Yeah, 3/5. Yeah,
3/5
60%.
So she works 28 hours a week for us.
Any questions? All right, let's move on to human services.
No, this is her first one, so be really tough on her.
Can we start with, I just want to address, because our budget is so big, and I just want to address a few things before getting into the nuts and bolts here. On the first page of your tax levy analysis, what I like to do is just start by going from the bottom up of that box. So you're going to see, first of all, the first thing on the very bottom of our box, right there, you're going to see outreach and marketing up $10,000. I just want to explain some of these just to give you a good feel of what this is. That is actually through our ADRC, and we have an ADRC grant with 4 other counties, so 5 of us. And that is actually, that $10,000 is part of that whole budget, so that's 100% funded through either that grant or MA claiming we can do for other things within that budget. So just so you're aware that that evens out, so it's not an increase in levy or increase in actual expenses. The next part, this is where, and I'll probably come back to this in a little bit, but this is where really the nuts and bolts of our budget, what gets so difficult about budgeting in human services, is because you'll see in our institutional placements and correctional facilities is up by about, we're projecting for 15, up over $100,000. And the reason that is again, it's so unpredictable. I presented to the executive committee not that long ago. Glenn and I did about a number of unforeseen situations where a bad year, you can have, you know, if you have one juvenile in corrections, you're paying over $300 a day for that juvenile. We have a child in a residential facility right now who costs the county over $12,000 in a month. We do a hospitalization, that's $800 to $1,000 a day. So those things are very hard to predict. We do the best we can to lower those risks, but a number of those, as I explained to the executive committee, we had one family move into Washera County. We ended up placing both their children in institutions to the tune of over $10,000 a month each child, so over $20,000 for those kids. Those 2 kids from one family that moved in, over $20,000 a month you're paying. And we've also been really struggling with adoptions, sometimes really high needs adoptions. Those kids actually come in with lots and lots of issues, and they start after, they might be cute little kids when they're adopted, but then by the time they get preteen and teenagers, we're seeing a lot of behaviors. Those sometimes end up in corrections. Again, we try to minimize those costs. We're utilizing different programs. So for example, you might have to pay over $300 a day for a kid to go to corrections. We found what's called the 180 program. Actually, this board approved us using that because we needed special board approval in order to go up to a whole year of comprehensive care. But there's lots of great programming with that. That program costs you a little over $200 a day, where corrections would cost you over $300 a day. So you're saving about $100 a day on 3 kids right now that are in that program. So we try to do that as much as we can to minimize those costs, but that's really what's so unpredictable, and that's what we struggle with. You heard the district attorney and the sheriff talk about the investigator position. Just another quick thing on that, we would plan to use that mainly for sexual abuse cases. We have seen an increasing number. It's been steady and kind of slowly increasing of children that have been sexually abused, and also elder abuse cases. Obviously, that takes a special skill set to do those investigations, and that's really what we're hoping to gain from that and help train that person, so you really have kind of a special victims unit of Washera County of this one person who specializes in those highly sensitive crimes. The next one up, going the resolution that you just approved last board meeting, just to clarify, that actually did reduce our budget slightly. So even though it looks like more of an expense on our salaries, we're anticipating it'll be a wash, or that we'll actually get a slight increase in revenue from that because of that 100% billing that we're going to utilize. So that actually did bring our bottom line down a little bit. Okay, then if you want to go to the main budget, I can talk a little bit about that. Transitioning our staff, we've talked about that. We've slowly been transitioning our staff to 40 hours a week. Again, instead of 37 and a half, so we could get more bang from our buck. I think we do have some labor issues in the sense that one worker will be doing the exact same job as another worker, but one worker's at 40 hours a week and one's at 37. I think if we make all our professional staff exempt, you're gonna see a big gain in that area from what we can get out of those employees. And then finally, just a comment on, you'll see that the total amount of our budget percentage-wise that we ask for tax levy is actually fairly small. It's only 20 to 25% of our total budget. You can see that we bring in about $5.5 million a year in revenue to the county. I will say that our staff works very hard with the feds, the state, to make sure that we're following all their rules so we can get reimbursed for everything we can. We go after grants. We're starting 4 kids in a program that's called Post-Reunification Services, and that's going to bring in $3,300 a month to the county, and that's starting this month. We just started actually end of August. So like those kind of funding, we really work hard to get that as much as we can. Our staff works very, very hard to bill. It's not easy working with MA, Badgecare, private insurances to try to bill as much as we can, but they do an excellent job of that. So we really try hard to keep our bottom line down. The other thing I'd like to point out is even though it looks like a 25% increase, actually, if you look at what we were allocated in tax levy back in 2009, and then it was frozen for quite a number of years, it was actually $2.7 million. So if you look at that, it's only a 3% increase, and that was 6 years ago. So I think we wanted to present you a budget that was realistic, because actually that's pretty excellent to only have that small of an increase in our total cost in that period of 6 years. We did have a chance to talk to Deb a little bit prior to coming in here, and you'll see that we do have if you go to our fund balance is up there. Okay. Yeah, right there. You'll see that, first of all, that 9,000, that's COP related. That's a specific program, so that's only for sort of people that are eligible for like elderly disabled, so that we can't utilize. But the 1.6 million we have for you, we've been tapping into that reserve for the last 3 years. In 2012, we used 27,000 of that, 27,580. In 2013, we used $261,505 of that. And now we're projecting in 2014 that we're going to have to cut into that $415,804. And I think that was on page 1 of your budget, I believe, that you can see that. Yeah, page 1, 2014 estimated is $415,804 is what we think we're estimating we're going to have to tap into that. So that will leave us with about $1,218,531 in our reserves. We really don't want to get that under $1 million. Again, one person who we have to hospitalize at $8,000 to $1,000 a day. If we have to put that person in an institution, one person costs you $1 million a year. So you're going to want to have some reserve for those folks. And you can see we're tapping into $400,000 in 1 year because of those high needs placements that we've had. But in talking to Deb, we agree that we could safely budget $218,531, because that would be the difference to make it what we are at that fund, that 1.6 million, and make that about $1 million after 2014. But again, we wanted to present you with a realistic budget. Obviously, we're concerned about the trend of us continually to cut into that, and cut into that, and cut into that. I don't want to be having the same conversation with you next year about, here we don't have that reserve, and now we're asking for a huge increase in levy. I don't know if there's any questions or anything that I missed that you can think of.
Questions?
Oh, I guess I would just say, sometimes we can have a good year. Hopefully we'll be in front of you next year and say, that 100% billing, that we really were to capture a lot of that. Again, that could potentially be a slight moneymaker for the county, so we're certainly going to utilize that to the best of our ability. It's just going to have to see how that plays out. But some
I guess I'm seeing some confused looks. So if you look under 2015 requested, fund balance applied, right now that is 0. What Dawn is suggesting is that you could plug in $218,531, and that would still leave them $1 million in their reserves. And so we can't do that year after year after year, but what she's saying is she thinks she can do it for 2015. 2016 might be a whole different story.
Prepare you. Hopefully we'll have a good year.
Yeah, thank you.
So we're reducing this 564,632. We're reducing that by 218,581.
531.
531.
Thank you, Dawn.
Thank you very much, Dawn. Does anyone else have any questions for Dawn? Oh, Larry, I'm sorry.
Where does this fund come from? Is it from surpluses from previous years, or?
Yes.
Any other questions?
In the notes, sorry. In the notes about the hiring of 5 new employees, you're saying that the total increase to 80,000?
That's a separate.
That's the 5 employees were the AOD mental health counselor piece that you approved last month. The SSD institutions, that's what's going up $80,000.
Yeah, those are the institutional placements.
You're saying that the projected increase isn't really there?
Correct, because, and we're actually thinking, it actually made us 18,000 to the good. We're projecting, again, we want to be conservative, we don't want to oversell it. But because we're going to be ending our contracted services, so with that money that will stay there, plus what we're anticipating the increased billing and contracting out of one of those staff, that will actually, at the very least, we're pretty sure we'll break even. But we think we might actually make money on that deal.
So when it shows a $534,000 difference, that's not real.
Well, that's real.
That's real.
It's just not attributable
Okay.
to those 5 people.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
All right.
Don, isn't that those 5 people with the CCS thing, that is because we're joining that 6-county consortium, which means we will be funded back a full 100% instead of the 60%, and then the state taking the other 40?
That's correct, yep. So basically, the feds pay the 60%, and now the state is saying, hey, if you do that regionalization, which Dennis is actually our chair for the region, that they're saying they'll pay, the state of Wisconsin is paying that 40%. So the county will be reimbursed 100%. And that's because they really wanted to help serve mentally ill people and provide services to them, those with addictions. I think the state and the feds see it as a big risk, and we are certainly, I think, this county is seeing the effects of, the recession. You're seeing, the effects of poverty, substance abuse, all those things, costs. And I think this is one of the ways the state is trying to help, prevent some of those costs in the first place.
I know the state was anxious to give more for mental health. Has our county realized? That's exactly
Yep,
it.
and actually, I think we're the first region in the state to get, either the first or one of the first to get certified as a region. We got certified September 1st. So as of today, we are doing 100% of it for that program, for C6.
Any other questions? Larry?
On page 4, on the bottom of the first section, there's something called indirect costs, and an increase from 101,000 to 276,000. Can you explain that?
We have a new auditor. We have a new group that is doing the indirect audit, and he looks at things a little bit differently than Maximus did. So that, I think we're just gonna feel the effects of that for a while until we get a new, until he gets us to where he thinks we need to be. So that's like building costs, things that aren't billed to them directly. We are able to bill them, and then they in turn can get more money from the feds and the state for that. So it's like those infrastructure support things that if they're not billed at 100% for them, he figures out after the fact what the real costs were. So it could be IT, it's utilities, it's buildings, it's insurances, it's everything that, we give them an estimate when we bill them and budget for it, but then he comes in after the fact, because you're always a year behind, and he looks what they were actually billed and what the actual cost was. So he looks at things a little bit different than Maximus did, so it's gonna take us a while to get that cycle changed. But this is actually a good thing for the county because they can bill more to state and federal for this stuff, so.
One of the benefits to the CCS 100% that I was talking about reimbursable, that's also for indirect costs associated with that program. So like what Deb's saying, say we buy a computer that's $1,000, and we could say, well, half of that computer is going to be used for CCS, that half would be totally funded. Or any other services that would be an indirect service. For CCS clients, we're going to try to get as many eligible as can be. Those indirect costs would be 100% reimbursable as well, which is good. It's really
It's a good
unheard of
thing.
almost, but.
So where is this money going then? It's going to the auditor?
No, there's revenues that offset this.
We can use that as our expenses to claim more federal revenue.
Yeah, I understand that part of it, but I just,
Oh, the auditor gets like $4,000 just for that service, so it all stays within the system.
So some of that expense you see offset in the revenue, in the 5.5 million revenue.
It's in the revenues to offset that, so it's just kind of like a figurehead number that we can use to claim more money, so it really isn't costing us that much.
So we can show the cost and we can bill it and show more revenue.
Any other questions?
I
Okay, Pat.
I know this sounds stupid, but I guess I just belabor it a little bit. On your notes here, it says that the reason why there's such a big increase, you list one of the things is hiring 5 new employees for CSP, CCS per resolution. That's what you're listing as one of the reasons why there's
Okay.
a 500.
You'll have to explain that.
Right?
Right.
Am I reading that wrong? So what I'm asking is if those positions are gonna be reimbursed, then that 564,000 isn't real.
No, it is real. Because even if you took those 5 positions away, your budget would still go up.
So go up 500,000?
Yes.
So then it should be listed here as the reason why it is went up 500,000. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Right.
If it's listed as a reason why there's a $500,000 increase, and then you're telling me it's being reimbursed, those positions, and they shouldn't be listed as a reason why there's a $500,000 increase. That's the
I
point I'm trying
understand
to make.
what you're saying.
So,
I thought the same thing when I read it.
yeah, okay.
There is expense associated with it, on
Okay.
the expense side.
Right, but there's also revenue that
Revenue
covers it.
sales, right.
Right, that's all I was trying to clarify that, so.
So maybe for clarification, that should have been in as a reason why it's.
Right,
going up.
that's the point I'm
Yeah,
trying
the
to make.
reason is the other things such as the increase in staff going from 37.5 hours to 40. Partly is the detective doing that's not a lot. Really, they're going to 40 hours a week, is probably the biggest, and the institutional costs. Those are probably your 2 biggest.
And one of the things that, I don't remember if it was public, was it personnel? They had them phase the going to 40 hours. They had them phase it in over next year on, like, right around their anniversary date. So they didn't all happen at the same time. So they tried to cut costs that way a little bit, so.
We did, but then we put it back in.
Oh, you did?
At this last go-round, we put it back in as to 40 hours right at the start of the year.
Oh, you did? Oh. Oh, what was the difference?
About 60,000.
Yeah.
$59,421.
Oh,
So that is an option, I think we,
And when we added in the new CCS program, we actually were able to reduce our levy, and so it didn't, the 59,000 didn't really make I mean, it helped, we could get by with that, because it reduced our levy enough that even after the 59, we were still at 18,000 from the CCS program to the good. So we thought, well, we might as well put that in there then.
okay.
We'll have
'Cause
to look at that motion
That
then.
isn't, yeah, that wasn't the motion at personnel, so
We'll have to look
we'll
at
have
that
to
motion
talk
then,
about that.
because
Okay. Okay.
We passed it using the anniversary dates.
Yeah. It wasn't approved.
well, then that would be another,
Okay.
59,400.
So it wouldn't impact, what we would do is you would just take that much less out of that 218? I mean, right? Instead of applying the full 218 or whatever, you would just, yeah, you would, so we could do it that way.
But if the motion was.
Yeah, right, no, we have to follow the motion, so. Okay.
Thank you. All right. Administration and data processing.
Okay, let me pull
Now, who's
these.
going to ask her the question?
Come on.
You're Joanne.
Come on at it. Yeah, go Ruth, go. Okay. All right. Well, there are so many needs in the county. I have put out asking for more help for many years, but it's reaching the point, when I have the same level of staff and administration that I had the day I walked in the door, which is going to be 26 years ago, and we've gone from 200 employees to 400 employees. This stuff isn't getting any simpler. We have a full benefit package that, we're maintaining. We're doing plan design. We're shopping it out. Health insurance, the impact of health insurance on the county is $3 million a year. So when we get a 10% increase, that's a lot of money. And so my department, we're dealing with wellness and trying to, get people to do prevention, because that's how you control your costs. So I'm asking for some more help, somebody to help me with HR. And that is the main chunk of money in this request. Most of the things that you'll see is like we do a lot of pass-through. We do the postage for the county. We do the HRA. We're working on the professional services is the strategic plan. So a lot of this stuff is just a pass-through. So the revenue went up, but the expense is the same. So it's just a pass-through. So really the nuts and bolts of this thing is the position that I'm asking for. I can delay the hiring of it, and that, we can cut the expenses that way. I'm willing to do whatever. I guess I put this off for a long, long time, and I just don't feel like it's in the best interest of the county to put this off anymore. There's things that we need to do with safety. There's things with orientation that I just don't have the time to do. I used to sit in on all the recruitment. When we did interviews, I'm lucky if I get to 50% of them because we're just too busy. So I really could use help in that area. And so that's what I'm asking for.
When Deb first brought this to personnel, it was kind of presented as a float secretary. I don't think the committee wanted to go in that direction. But I think human resources is a very good place to put it, because there is a lot of work, and there's not, if you've walked into Michelle's office lately, she is just, she's doing way more than.
Yeah, her time is actually 80% in my office and 20% in data processing. We do all the cell phones, she helps a lot with the IT stuff. So So I'm just asking for some more help. The data processing budget, really basically the departments tell us what they're gonna spend money on for software and software maintenance. That all gets compiled. We depreciate most of the IT equipment. We've gone from everybody having, you know, it's interesting how this equipment always cycles. So, you know, when I started in 1902, you know, we had like mainframe computers and then we went to the desktops, and now we're going basically back to mainframes. They call them thin clients now. But so, you know, those systems keep changing. But we depreciate that equipment. We depreciate the servers. We're getting more and more, like, we're trying to have more things depreciated so I don't have to come back to you and beg for money. Like the phone system's being depreciated now. We've got a lot of the stuff in the sheriff's department being depreciated, so that's all worked into this. And then there's a formula that takes Mike's time and the contracted time, and then it splits it out among the departments based on the amount of time they use. So it's zero on the levy because it all gets passed back to the departments. So those are the two stories.
Any questions? Do you have any questions for Deb concerning the position?
Not with the position, but maybe you can explain your designated funds thing.
Okay. A few years back, we asked for the EE contingency fund. That is the money that is set aside, that as people retire, that's the sick leave. That's the liability we have on that sick leave payout. So that's what it is. So every year that's going to go down until it's gone. But we set that aside because that is a definite liability that we have. The ERRP program, the Early Retiree Reinsurance Program, I wrote a grant with the federal government. That's what's left. That will all be used this year. That's to help pay for part of the cost of health insurance. I think we had gotten like 60, 70,000. That's what's left, and that has to be used up by the end of the year. The wellness program is basically, you know, trying to do prevention, and we have a weight loss challenge going on right now with an exercise component, so it's just that promotional stuff. And again, the good news is our group as a whole have lost weight, so that's a good thing, right? And it's all in the right direction, so that's what we're trying to do. The health reimbursement arrangement is we were giving so much money every month for health, the reimbursement accounts. So we've moved away from that for the majority of our employees. Now it's in a health savings account, but this health reimbursement is what our liability is right now, and so that's really just a pass-through. So.
Do you think the county board's lost weight?
Pat, looking at you, I just know it. Pat. Any of you can join us anytime you want. Yeah, Ruth walks, 2 or 3 nights a week. She works out at Tri-County. Oh my gosh. You're welcome to join us anytime. Yeah. So again, one of the suggestions, if you would like to cut the scale us back a little bit, I would just delay. I could delay the hiring a few months or whatever, and that we could reduce the expenses for 2015.
Is there a time of the season at all when you need more help and you don't? I mean, would this be a bad time to wait as far as the hire is?
Well, right, I always tell people if they're gonna start the hiring process, they either want to do it right now, so you're basically done through the holiday season, or wait till after the first of the year, and start the process then. Just because you don't have a lot of people that are actively looking for jobs over the holidays, those few weeks over the holidays. So we're busy all the time. I don't think there's a better time or a worse time. So.
If you were going to start them whenever you wanted to, when would you start the new employee?
Well, if I waited till the first of the year to start the process, I would think that by March maybe you'd have somebody on board.
Start the process. I said start the employee to work, actually working.
I had it budgeted to start them at the beginning of the year, but again, if I could delay that, and we could cut that expense.
Well, now I'm gonna defend Deb, which I promised myself I'm gonna do, so nobody was gonna question her, but, as a person who like sees what's going on with like the hiring process, and I think Dawn and Jeff can probably attest to this, at times there are delays
Yeah.
in our hiring, and it's, I mean, it's not any fault of Deb's, but, you know, the committees will approve replacing somebody because somebody has retired or somebody has left, and then we don't get those postings up right away, we don't get the advertisements out right away, Deb can't schedule the testing. We are really lacking, we've been talking about it in the strategic planning process, that, you know, that we think that we need to do a better job of orientation when employees first come in, like knowing how things work at the county, what we'd expect of employees, making sure everybody is like trained on our policies so that we don't have problems down the road with personnel issues. So I, for one, think that if you're going to approve the position, that it should be approved to start January 1st, because we've been doing a lot of hiring and there's just been a lot
It's
of
constant. It
I
worked.
really hate to do
Yeah.
this, but
That's what I was
agree with
thinking. That's what I was thinking.
Holy man.
That's why I asked if you could start this person the first of the year.
I could.
You have to do the hiring process ahead of that
I'd
time.
start it now,
Not
yep.
start paying them until then.
Right.
That's
I
what
could
I
do
meant.
that. Yep.
So if we're gonna,
Believe it or
we're gonna approve this position, we would start the process now,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Yes. Go for it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Where would you put them, Deb? If you hired them, where would you?
Well, I'm thinking I'd rearrange Sandy's office, and that person would be in with Sandy.
Because you can't find Michelle right now.
Put her in a taller chair. That would help.
I'll tell her you said that.
Okay, are there any other questions for Deb? If not, we will move on to the Corporation Council.
So, I'm here.
Okay.
My budget, the biggest increase is litigation expense. And this is one that is totally up to you. It's a gamble. We have gone over in that account, the last couple of years. And basically what that pays for is, sometimes we have to hire, sometimes we have to hire out different attorneys. We had a case where I represented the zoning office, and so we had to hire an attorney to represent the Board of Adjustments. That ended up going to court, taking a long time, and was several thousands of dollars that we had to pay. We tried to get the people who started it to reimburse us all of our attorney's fees, and I think we only managed to get $2,000 from them. So, and then also out of this account, this year I was over budget immediately because I had to pay the $30-some thousand that the judge ordered that we pay in the DeCoster case, which is, you know, currently sitting there hoping that it's paid. It's in a trust fund, so that we don't get charged interest on it. But, hoping that the Court of Appeals says that that's all we owe. So, in previous years, prior to 2013, you know, we didn't spend the $10,000 that we had originally budgeted in there. We had good years, we didn't have to hire outside counsel, we didn't have judgments to pay, those kind of things. So, I increased it to 20,000. As you can see, I'm already gonna spend 40,000 this year, so it's only half. I spent 24,000 in 2013. So, it's a gamble. There are years that I don't spend 10,000, there are years that I'm gonna spend more than that. So if you wanted to reduce that back down, you could. Just know that it's entirely possible that that expense is gonna be more, depending on what kind of year we have. Yep.
If that doesn't get spent, does that just get turned over then?
Yep, I don't have any, designated funds. If I have any money left over in my budget, then the year goes back to general fund.
Leave it in there. We need it, if we don't, we still got it.
Is that your final word? Okay. Thank you, Everett. Thanks, Ruth. County Clerk.
Well, it's the year that I get to look good because I only have 2 elections next year instead of 4. So this is the year that things are good and I'm down. I did have to, just so executive knows, I did have to reduce my revenues since executive on the pawn broker licensing permits. It turns out that we no longer have any eligible businesses for these licenses in Lashare County. So I took that down $1,500 because we just won't get it, just isn't a factor anymore. So that's reflected in like the bottom here. So elections are down about $23,000 I think this year because it's only 2 instead of the 4 that I'm having this year. I did raise some county board accounts to try to gauge where we're going to be at for per diems with the new rates, increased rates. I also raised some line items on your travel and your registration training due to more usage of that. So, but overall, we're down next year. It will not be as pretty at all. So. They're warned. Yep. A year in advance.
Any questions for Mel? I didn't know we lost our pawn shop.
Yeah, apparently so.
That's what the sheriff's department told me. I said, where are my license fees? And they said, every business we have closed.
Oh, no.
And I said, okay.
Okay. Any questions for Mel? All right, let's move on to non-departmental revenues.
This is just the general account, the kind of catch-all, doesn't really apply to one department. Deb's got a couple of things in there. Elaine and I have quite a bit in there. It's the taxes, sales tax, a lot of tax-related items. Also, indirect costs for EMS, again, those went way up under the new auditing we're having done by a new firm. Seems to think there were some, not necessarily errors, but definitely things being done in a way that he does not agree with in the past. So those were adjusted accordingly.
You mean, is it things that the other auditor was okay with, and he just wants it done differently, or is that what you mean by that?
Yeah, he just uses different standards.
But I mean, he's not saying we're doing anything
No,
wrong.
no, because I asked him that
Okay.
specifically when I saw the
All right.
audit and saw the huge
Okay.
increase. There were some differences in the way he was looking at buildings and grounds and data processing. I
It's
have a
just that
whole email here if you're more interested.
He
because
just
I've got
wants it done
questions.
differently. It's nothing we're doing wrong, but he didn't agree with what the other auditor was doing.
Correct.
Okay.
That was the gist of it.
That makes me feel better.
So, got some $201,000 and some change in revenues increasing, and a lot of decreases. We don't have anything in the contingency expense this year for Whitley or capital improvements. So, that's that. That's way down.
Okay, and that is,
And we pulled that money out of the WIPLE because at the last strategic planning session, you know, we kind of talked about a timeline that merit thing probably isn't going to take full effect till 2017 or something? It was out there. So that's why we pulled that. The departments, we put the money right in their budgets because we had the comp plan. We knew what it was going to do. So, and that's the other thing I would add is that when we did prepare all the salary and benefit sheets, we built in a 1.5% adjustment for the non-union. So that would be something else that would have to come back to the board for full approval.
Okay, Mel, do you have a summary of what we have done so far?
Did you have a question, Larry?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I do. Yep, I do too. If you want to go, go for it.
Let's see if my math is right.
Buildings and grounds, you recommended taking $36,000 out of the contingency fund. Family court commissioner, reducing by 2,800, I believe, Ruth, is that what you have? Department of Aging, $11,849 out of,
Oh,
sorry,
that's
that's wrong. That's emergency government, I'm looking at the wrong line. Out of their additional tower expense, I keep saying human services, aging services, $7,000 out of their unreserved, undesignated, right? Register of deeds, it looks like we're gonna increase some revenues by at least $1,500, I think, Heather? Somewhere along there. And then human services, that $218,531. And it sounds like that might change, or isn't gonna change, I'm not sure.
I guess we'll have to talk about that, figure it out.
So that should add up to $277,680, is that what everybody else has?
I got 8,000 for Department of Aging.
I have two.
8,000?
8,000 that she wanted to keep, because that was for the compensation.
All right, I misunderstood that.
Make sure you get that on. It's a good thing you stayed.
So do you want to go back to your original synopsis that?
Yeah.
So the 639 is what? What did it end up? So it's 614, 699. That took the 25,000 out. Did you make your adjustment then too for your revenue change? Is that 1,500 back in there? Okay, so that's already there. Okay.
I had 278, 162 now.
2,800.
Oh, that's why I said 36, 422.
Do you want 36,422? I don't know.
Up to you guys.
16,849 on something. Do you have that at all?
That was 11,849.
11?
11,849.
Emergency government, 849.
That's what it was, no, it was just, I had that 422.
So it should be, we're cutting 277,680 off that 614.
277.
680. Here.
Total would be, this would go down to 377. Go down to 377,019, I believe.
Okay.
Gotta take it from the 680 for 614.
That 639, after our meeting with Deb and Donna, we took 25.
639 on this sheet is not the correct one? It's a 614,
It's actually
699?
614, 25,000 was taken out of there late in the game, so.
Yeah, that happened just after the strategic planning meeting the other day. Okay, so the 377,019. So that's
Over last year's budget.
that's the difference that we have to talk about. So you're able to use the debt and add a line that says minus debt for that amount. You are able to do that. You have that ability if that's what you choose to do. Otherwise, we got to figure out where that 377,000 comes from. If you add the line that says minus debt, the mill rate the mill rate does go up, though. Can you figure that out quick? I know you had said, I knew you said 9 cents for the 6-something.
It would be less than 9 cents, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yep, that's about all I can tell you right now.
Yeah.
Going on a
Say it's
14,
less than
15
9
hour
cents.
day here.
I'm trying to help you out here, Mel. Less than 9 cents.
So it would be, the mill rate would go up, but Mel is thinking it would be less than 9 cents, because we knew the 600-something was 9 cents. So now it's not quite cut in half, but
Probably safely say
We have to have a
7
referendum.
cents.
no, because you would attribute it to debt, to the debt payment, which is 800-some thousand, right? The debt service that's in one of these pamphlets here, one of these packets, is 842,000. So that's the most you could apply to debt? So you could take that, conceivably, you could take that entire amount, and then the mill rate would go up, what, 10, 11 cents maybe? Right? If 600-something takes it up 9, so 800 would take it up 11 or 12 cents, right? You could, I mean, that's the reality of this. You could do that, but do you want to, I guess, is the question you have to ask.
And what did you say, Mel, last year we went up 30 cents?
Over the past 5 years, it's been an average of 30 cents a year.
And what's driven most of that is our equalized value went in the dumpers after the 2008 housing crash. So now that's kind of leveled off. I think Town of Marion right now is doing an assessment, Larry. I don't know if you've heard anything. Is it staying static? Is it going up, going down? I don't know. I haven't heard anything. So what are you hearing on the realty end? Is it kind of leveled off now around here as far as prices go, do you think? Or do you think we're going to continue to go down?
There hasn't been much change lately.
Okay, so it's been pretty static, okay. So maybe that part of it maybe is behind us, hopefully.
I wouldn't think that we would want the whole thing, to apply the whole thing. I think if we can keep it at this 337,019 and use that as our number.
That would make,
337 or 377? I thought you said 377.
Oh, it's 377.
that
I
would
don't
make,
subtract too well.
that would make it about how many cents on 1,000?
Well, we know it'd be less than 9.
Pardon me?
We know it'd be less than 9.
9, a lot less than 30.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Ruth said it is 337. I do subtract well. I do.
It is 337? Okay.
337,019.
Said 377 before, but I like 337.
Anybody for even 325? And I'm going. Yes, Russ.
I'd like to bring up a discussion on that library that we reimbursed for on $37,000 for. Is there any way we can cut that back?
That's a statute. We do have WCA looking into that, not that portion of it, but what they're looking at is what we're reimbursing other libraries for movies. They are looking into that because they said, that's a legislative thing, and I'm not saying you get rid of movies, I'm just saying that our taxpayers don't pay for them to go to libraries outside the county.
And I understand that some libraries charge more to our share than others, and that should be standardized for that.
And Mark could address that. I don't know.
But currently it's based on the cost.
I know.
The library's cost, or CERC.
They are looking into that.
Good.
ready for a motion? Deb, what do you think?
Yeah.
Okay, we're ready for a motion. What I said. I don't remember what I said. That was at least 3 minutes ago. Go ahead, Eric.
No, I make a motion that we take
37.
337,019.
Where are we coming up with the 337?
take that out of the,
77.
614,
40,000 in a matter of minutes. Ain't that nice? We'll be here a few more minutes.
So that you would apply that towards the credit we get for debt.
yes.
Okay.
Which means that we are passing these
For,
with the changes that Mel has.
right. And then
Documented.
Heather will get Melanie whatever number, and then and then I'll work with Human Services, we'll figure that out. What's that?
Well, you said something about 18,000 now, and you said it would be at least 19.5.
And then, I guess the plan would be then, in October, we would bring the resolutions forward of the new positions that have been worked into this? Is that, okay?
Is that part of your motion too?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I would like to thank people here and the directors for all their hard work on this. I know it's been a pistol for you, and we can just sit here and talk smart and try to help. But you're doing a yeoman's job. We really, really appreciate that. You're not making it easy, but no, really. With what you have to work with, we really appreciate it. I'm just speaking for myself. I don't know about the rest of them.
And I hope that you found that this was educational, or this helped some, so you understand where we're coming from, and we understand where you're coming from. So I thought it was important that the whole county board saw that.
Do you have a second? I do not have a second to the motion yet.
I'll second that, everything.
Okay, we have a motion, a second, and we'll do a roll call vote.
Okay, Mr. King.
Oh, wait, Larry.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
This might work for this year, but what is gonna happen in future years? Are we
you're still gonna have to.
Are we gonna do some more bonding and borrow money to pay our bills, or what?
You might have to look at cutting programs.
Let's face it, 1 year at a time, Larry.
I mean, it's just something to think about.
Yes, absolutely.
But on the other hand, as was said before, the public wants these services. And we said before, I've said before, they're gonna have to pay for part of it. What are you gonna do? I mean, the police protection, the highway, the EMS, you can go all the way down through the line, library, everybody.
Human Services.
Every department.
If the state doesn't change the rules though, at some point in time, then you might be looking at a referendum. Because you could still, we still have to follow the rules they give us on how much we can go up.
Right. But I mean, people are asking for all this stuff, but as Jeff said, he doesn't have enough people to take care of everything, so. You're stuck.
Pat, did you have a question?
No, it just, no.
You okay? Are there any other questions? Because now is the time.
This isn't final budget.
No, it's not, but this is,
This will be the budget
Yeah.
that Melanie's office puts together to publish for the public hearing in November.
right. Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Do you want a roll call?
Yes.
Okay.
Roll call vote.
All right, Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Waddle.
Yes.
Mr. Rothermel.
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner.
Yes.
Mrs. Prince.
Yes.
Mr. Heisey.
Yes.
Mr. Tim.
Yes.
Mr. Piaski.
Yes.
Mr. Eckstein.
Yes.
Mr. Weddy.
Yes.
Mrs. Plata.
Yes.
11 ayes.
Okay. Do we have any board suggestions for future agenda items? You're on, Everett.
Do we want to
Adjourn. Second.
We have a motion, a second to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Same sign.
Because they put in for the 50, like a regular committee meeting. And that isn't for public work.